It's a good thing there are 5 of us.
Good evening and welcome to the May 17th, 2017 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Before we get to the agenda, I'd like to just ask everyone to silence their devices if they have devices with them. And also to tell you that if you want to speak, which we encourage, we welcome it, you do have to come to the podium and use the microphone. And if you need to move away from the podium, take the microphone with you, please, because we're being televised by FCTV, and it's the only way people will hear you. All
And
right.
they have to tell us who they are.
That's right. You have to tell us who you are. And then you can take it away. All right. First order of business is the minutes of May 3rd. Has anyone reviewed those?
I did, Madam Chair, and I found them to be substantially correct.
Move to accept minutes.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Other business, discuss and vote referral of Shoreview Avenue enforcement orders to Town Council for further legal action.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I remember a while ago you had a fairly significant violation along Shoreview Ave that involved 8 to 10 properties. The property owners were given 60 days to file one, a restoration plan, and 2, a monitoring and maintenance plan for the 8 properties that were subject to someone trespassing on their property. A few months ago, you gave the property owners a 30-day extension. That was up at the end of February. We've been trying to work with them, and we just haven't gotten any movement on that. So I would like authorization to refer the matter to Town Council so they can pursue further legal action.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Sure.
Have you had interaction with them at all?
Yes.
Okay. So, we have a motion and a second to refer the matter to Town Council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Moving on to request for determination of applicability. St. Anthony's Parish, care of Anthony Fusaro, 167 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to remove all trash and abandoned shed, cinder block barbecue, invasive plants, cut down approximately 6 trees, reestablish a 4-foot trail, remove a 2-foot wall, and reconfigure as a prayer area, all as part of an Eagle Scout project.
Yes, Madam Chairman, before I make our recommendation, I believe the Eagle Scout is here to explain to the board a little bit about his project.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Cedar from 242 at St. Anthony's, and this is an Eagle Scout service project for my Eagle Scout. This is happening behind St. Anthony's Church, where the lower lot is. Previously, there was a house there where it burned down, and there's still a ton of debris, an old shed, fire pit, as you heard, back there that all needs to be removed. And the goal of the church is to clean that existing trail that is back there that runs from the location of the house to the back of the cemetery. It's approximately a quarter of a mile long and pretty well established, but it's a little overgrown. So our primary goal is to be clearing that out, making it walkable and safe. We're going to install a small trellis at the opening to this area, as well as a natural wall with bushes and other natural plants. We're going to be removing approximately 4 to 6 trees. We're going to be leaving the stumps in to use them as benches or bases for benches. And removal of a lot of trash. There is a lot of planting materials back there, TVs, a large metal shed that's just been sitting back there attracting squatters. And by doing this, we're going to be removing them and preventing them from coming in the future, as well as in the long term, making sure the trail stays clear and keeping the trash out of the environment. Some of the primary goals of it is to maintain a natural feel of the area, We don't want to really make this seem like it's meant to be there. We want to make it seem natural. And we want to create minimal disturbance by doing this. And one of the main things is to uphold the Scouting Outdoor Code, which includes being considerate of the outdoors and conservation-minded. And keeping the area clean of trash for years. And that's all. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Anthony.
One second, we may have questions. Jen?
Nope, just thank you, that was excellent. Mark said that you were very well prepared out in the field when you met with my staff, so thank you for that. And the staff is recommending a -2 with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So
And
moved.
that's under both the state
Second.
and the bylaw.
Betsy?
So,
I made the motion.
Maureen and Betsy.
so I have a question for either of you, and that is what are the wetland resources? Why are you before us? Well, I didn't, that just came. I've been setting up.
It was my understanding that you needed an RDA to work within 100 feet of the wetlands, and most of this trail is within 100 feet.
Of what kind of wetlands? I'm asking what the wetland resource is, which you might not know what it's technically called, but Jen would know what it's technically
It's a
called.
bordering vegetative
Potato
wetlands.
wetlands.
Okay,
First floor wetland.
great, thanks. That's all.
Coastal Bank.
It's called a BVW.
Okay.
I have a question, it's really just out of curiosity. You mentioned something about keeping the squatters out after the space is cleared out, and I'm just wondering if you have an actual plan targeted to that, or
So,
keeping them out.
In the last year, the church made a strong push to make sure they're not there. They implemented no trespassing signs and notified the police department. And we want to keep that up and make sure it's only open during daylight hours, so nobody's there overnight.
And so how will it be closed off?
Not physically, we'll notify the police, obviously, of the hours of it, and just make sure that there's, occasionally go back there, check if there's any signs of anyone living there, and make sure that's investigated.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Any questions from the public? All right, we have an,
It's nice, just a comment.
yes?
Nice
Like we
presentation.
say, nice presentation, and we'd love to see these Eagle Scout
Yes.
projects.
That's great.
Does a
Thank
lot
you.
for the town.
Certainly does. All right, all those in favor of adopting staff's recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Anthony.
So that means you can go ahead.
All right. Next.
You don't have to leave, though.
Well, they haven't,
He's got a meeting.
Oh,
yes,
there's
we've
another
got another meeting. Good Builders, 80 County Road, AKA 270 Main Street, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct 2 previously approved buildings under an expired order of conditions, DEP 25-3191, where buffer plantings had already been installed. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the bylaw and -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion from the board?
Question?
Yes.
Since the order's expired, why wouldn't you have this resubmitted as a request for an order?
Some of the buildings are already done. It was this 4,
It's by the pond, right?
yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed to approving this, I'm just
Well, all the
curious.
mitigation plantings that were required under the order have gone in, so this is to do the 2 buildings that are actually outside the jurisdiction, or one of the buildings.
Oh, they're outside of
Yeah.
jurisdiction, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Fair
all,
enough.
you had some buildings that were in jurisdiction and some that were out in this project, so.
You've answered my question.
Okay, any comments from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Next, D. Arthur LeBlanc, 97 Water Street, Woods Hole, Massachusetts.
Yes,
For-
Madam.
For permission to repair and replace worm-damaged existing pilings on a formerly approved dock under DEP 25-656.
It's an oldie.
Excuse me, we are recommending a negative turn to the statement bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any,
This must have been
Oh.
from a long time ago.
because of the numbers?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a long number.
656, that's a,
Wow.
Any other comment or question? Anything from the public? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Scott and Catherine Anderson, 14 Quahog Pond Lane, West Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to reconstruct and expand the three-season porch room and entry deck, including relocation of the steps into the new room, all built on sonotube-style footings.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a negative turn to the state in the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
second.
Any questions, comments?
I just had one question. It says that this is, it's not exceeding the 25% of the gross floor area per DCPC. So there's never been a bite of the apple?
I had Mark check on
Okay,
that. and
perfect, that's all.
That's one of the things I did have Mark check on.
Thank you.
Okay, anything from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Continued request for determination of applicability. Ken and Lorraine Montori, Lot 7H Pine Bank Road, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct a new three-bedroom, single-family house with attached garage, deck, porches with stairs, install walkways, landscape walls, Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, dry wells, gravel driveway, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this commissioner received an email from Mark along with some documentation on the project and a kind of a site review letter from Woods Hole Group. This area is down off of Pine Bank in the Magansett area in town. I hope you all had a chance to go down there. You recently saw the project across the street at 28 Pine Bank, in which a coastal dune was located on the property. That dune delineation, for lack of a better way to put it, just kind of faded off towards the road. The area is mapped by DEP as a coastal dune area. So the staff feels that another opinion is warranted in this case. So we have been talking with the applicant's representative, and in this case, we would ask that the board invoke the consultant's, your consultant's fee to get an opinion on whether this area is a coastal dune or whether the resource area buffer to the coastal dune across the street extends into this property. They do want to construct a single-family house, and staff is just a little concerned at this point on the correct delineation of this area.
Okay.
Where's my?
All right.
I'll second.
Okay. We're going to let, well, go ahead.
If it weren't for the dune, it doesn't rise to the level of an order, is what you're saying.
Well, it's land subject to coastal storm flowage, and we're concerned with the coastal dune delineation. So
Right. But I mean, let's assume for a moment that the dune were not an issue you normally would.
I think then we're only dealing with land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
But I'm going to caveat that and saying I'd like an opinion.
Here we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, and we have been in discussions with your staff. We understand their concerns. I just wanted to make sure that you realize that I will be asking for a continuance, but I just wanted to fill in a couple of blanks. The property across the street, 28, was issued an order of conditions, and we did describe an area north as dune without a specific delineation, and that was accepted. Subsequent to that, in the concerns that were raised by staff, led us to retain the services of the Woods Hole Group to look the whole area over. And they did render an opinion, and I think you've seen it. Way back in the mid-2000s, there was also an order of conditions issued on another house, and there was no mention of dune. This all being said, we understand that there's still some concern that there may be dune, and you'd like to know where it is, and would like us to be able to demonstrate that, depending on if there is one, where it is, how it would affect the property. We would like to, of course, I understand that the consultant policy means that the applicant pays for the services of the consultant that advises you. So we would like, obviously, to have an opportunity to review the cost estimate and make a decision if we want to proceed. So I know that takes time, and I guess we need to ask for a continuance to do that.
All right.
That's fine, Madam Chairman, but the applicant, and I did tell Mike this today, the board can invoke the consultant's fee. The other way to go about this is to issue a positive. The applicant would then have to file a notice. The staff would be recommending the same thing under the notice. So we did feel that this was an expedited way to do that. I will be contacting a consultant that the board has worked with before, Jim O'Connell, to render us a cost estimate. I've already made Mike aware of that. So, but again, the applicant cannot say they disagree with the cost of the estimate. They can only, what's the word?
Withdraw.
Appeal the consultant's
Opinion.
qualifications. So, in this case, I don't feel that that is going to be.
No, we just don't want to have.
Or you could choose not to proceed.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
choose not to
Yeah,
proceed.
and that's fine.
We don't want to find out it's extraordinary.
that's-
We may rely on our opinion, and you base your decision on what you have in the record, but we do reserve our right just to have a look at the cost. That's it.
Okay. So,
So I'm asking for a continuance.
right.
Like, I don't know, I have to obviously get in
Okay,
touch.
we have a vote. Yeah.
Well, we haven't taken the vote.
Oh, no, but I mean, we have a
Yeah.
motion, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. What do you think is a reasonable?
A month.
Pardon?
A month.
A month?
We have to take the vote to accept this first before we get a date.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is there any other comment or questions from the public? All right, we have a motion to accept staff's recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, so,
Mike, let me see, where am I right here, 17. 28th, that'll get me to the end of June.
Well, a month is,
The 21st, they don't have a hearing.
a month's the 14th, isn't it? Or 4 weeks from now.
I'll do my best in contacting,
I mean, if he can't get it done, we could always just ask for another continuance.
okay, you want to do that?
We'd like to try to expedite it as best we
Yeah,
can.
no, that's fine.
At the request of the applicant, I move to continue to June 14th.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, moving on, excuse me, to requests for hearings under notice of intent. First is Lewis Thornton. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to read something first. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So now, Lewis Thornton, 56 Hamlin Avenue, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a single-family 3-bedroom house with attached garage, deck, porch, install a Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, dry wells, driveway, to remove trees and shrubs and install native tree and shrub plantings and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening. Thank you. For the record, I have 2 points for the record. First, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Second, the applicant's name is Thornton Lewis, not Lewis Thornton.
Okay.
We DSS Design prepared this plan for Mr. Lewis, 56 Hamlin Ave. The resource areas that we show on the plan, current proposed plan is Weeks Pond, and which is the inland bank of Weeks Pond, and then we have a buffer to that. We actually filed that's on a revised plan. We filed the original plan, which did show a wetland bordering the pond, which we set out in the winter. I was there with one of my guys, and he said that might, we started out basically doing some planning on the property, and we staked what we thought was a wetland line there. When we got to filing it, we contracted with LEC to look at it and do the proper job of it. And with their scheduling, they couldn't get the work done before we filed. It said there's a letter in your package from LEC saying that Mark Manganello found no EPW along the pond edge. Jen called me today, and she was there with Mark, and said that they believe there is a fringe EPW along there, and we can take a look at that, and Mark come back and take a look at that and determine, to what extent that is, and prepare the necessary data sheets for that. So I expect we'll be requesting a continuance. I can show you one other, I'll just point it out right now. In our narrative, we talk about dry wells, and we have a dry well detail on the page. If you look at the proposed plan, you don't see any dry wells. That's a fluke of AutoCAD where some layers can be marked as non-printing. As I was writing this all out, looking at the dry wells on the computer screen, I didn't notice that they didn't print on the on the print. I can give this to you now. I quickly printed this. I'm not doing this as a filing, as an amended, as a revised plan. Just to show that there really were dry wells to be shown on the plan. They are there now, and they'll be printing them like that on a new plan. The site has an existing house on it, which was built around 1938, a two-bedroom house, cottage. Which is about 33 feet from the inland bank of Weeks Pond. And it is wholly within, let's say it's mostly within the A zone of Weeks Pond, and being a 75-foot, it's wholly within the A zone of the inland bank of Weeks Pond, the existing cottages. And then the B zone goes another 25 feet beyond that. That's vacant property. There is a septic system which is more than 100 feet, but it is a just tank and a leach pit and doesn't conform to current Title V regulations. The house enters from the high elevation near the road, and there's a walkout on the bottom. It's a fenced area, which there's one tree within it, and a dead oak tree, and otherwise just lawn area, and not a lot of vegetation in the flat area, even beyond the fence. But then it's wooded and vegetated down the slope toward the pond. The proposed plan, we're adding a house in here, which is moving back about 12 feet or so back away from the pond. It's a reduction of area within the A zone. There's an increase of area reduction of 300 square feet reduction in the A zone and an increase of area in the B zone. So we have a total increase of 551 square feet in the B zone, and this will require 1,102 square feet of mitigation planting, which we have shown basically is moving back, so the entire porch deck area on the existing house will now be lawn, and everything that was toward the pond from the existing deck will be planted with shrubs. As there are several trees being removed, 4 trees being removed, so there are 4 trees being proposed to be put back in. We have shown a 3-bedroom septic system on this property, which meets Title V requirements and is 125 feet from the pond. So it meets all setback requirements from that. You have a limit of work down along the fenced area for doing all of this work. Some of the mitigation planting on the south side, beyond the fence toward the pond, there's a clear area, so some of the mitigation planting will go into that and along the lot line on the south side, but not within 10 feet of the house. And they said dry wells will be installed for all of the roof runoff, and they will be shown on a revised plan that I'll submit. That is the proposal.
Great, thank you. Jen?
Not many, Madam Chairman. We spoke to Tom today. We got LEC's revised documentation last week. We just got up there today. We feel there is kind of like a fringe. There are wetland trees and shrubs right along the base. It's not a very wide BBW, but we do feel it should be marked accordingly. So we'd like to see the old delineation back, the one that was originally. I mean, even if it's between the two, I'd be fine with that. But I do want that delineation on the plan.
Can I ask you, is that something that has the potential to change the mitigation?
Yes, because if you look at the original plan you got, that was dated on April 25th. Your mitigation planting was 1438. Now it's 1102. I mean, it's not going to change by much. It really isn't.
It won't be up to the 1438, but it will increase.
It's going to be somewhere in between there.
I said we originally did it in the winter, and there was some snow on the ground, and that overcompensated for planting purposes. And Mark looked at it. It's not as big as we had drawn, but it is more than what Mark said, more than just the pond. There's some little fringe along there.
All right. Courtney?
I'll pass for the moment. Okay. You get back to me.
Fine. Maureen?
Well, it's a big increase. It's 990 square foot house to a 2,000 square foot house. It's quite large. And I guess with the large oak trees that are going, 64 inches of oaks that are going, what is the size of the 4 that you're proposing to go back?
I'd say they're probably just the typical 2.5 inch trees.
I don't think that's a very good trade. I don't know why the triple 14-inch oak is going, which is right on the 75-foot pond edge.
Well, we could say we could try to save it. It's only about 5 feet from the house. Obviously it's a tight lot. There's just.
Well, now it's a tight lot because everything is 10.4 feet and 10.2, which the maximum, the minimum it can be is 10 foot.
Right.
So there's no wiggle room. And hopefully nobody ever has to go around the front. Is the fence high enough for wildlife, that's the existing fence for wildlife to pass, and was that permitted?
The fence is there's a little wire fence about this high.
Yeah, I saw it.
Is it
And it
high
has
enough?
it.
Well, I think it'll be removed. I have a note to remove it after.
Okay.
After construction.
After construction, it'll all be gone. We'll have to collect litter if it blows around, so that's good.
Right.
All right, I gotta just think on the caliper inch for the trees, thank you.
Oh, I have one thing to add, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
And I don't, Tom, that 22-inch dead oak,
Yep.
can't read. Do they want to keep it?
Would you say, do they want to keep it? Or like- because I
Mark
did-
said that the property was given permission to remove that years ago.
No, I know I didn't have it. Frankly, I thought you would say maybe you might want to top it a little bit, so have good.
Because we were both looking at it going,
But no.
why is it here?
That should be
So-
removed. I didn't
Okay.
mark that for removal. I kind of think it'd be obvious that it would be removed.
Okay, Maureen, that one is dead.
Yeah, no, I saw that one.
Yeah, that one is dead. But I agree.
But I thought they
with
were leaving it
that
for
one.
habitat, so I wasn't encouraged.
Maybe they did, but I mean, Mark and I were both looking at it. I mean, if it falls, it's gonna go towards the pond, but still.
Yes,
Nelson? Betsy?
I just have a question. Is this a big increase and it's over 20%? Are you going to go to ZBA?
It requires ZBA, and it's within 50 feet of the pond. It would require a ZBA, again, because it's over the 20%. So.
Okay.
That's all. Jamie?
Thanks for the dry wells. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
Steve?
good, thank you.
All right,
I'm all set.
so we're all set, okay? So, sounds like you need a continuance.
Tom, how long will it take you to get Mark back out there?
I'd like to be able to prevail upon him. He's going to be in Falmouth on Friday, but I'm not sure I'll have the time to do that.
If I gave you June 14th, would that be enough time? This should go really quick and easy when you're, all you have to do is redo the BBW line, recalculate the mitigation, and address the tree issue that Maury raised. Other than that, it's, I mean, this is fairly straightforward, so it won't take that long.
Is
So
that
if you could get it done by the 6th. The 7th is just absolutely, trust me, you don't want to be here.
I'm going to be here the 7th.
I don't know if they want you to be here for a continue, they have 5 new notices, 3 continued, one of them including the Minot Bridge project. I'm thinking the 14th.
If
Yep.
At the request of the applicant, I
that's
make a
the
motion
best.
to continue this to 6/14.
Second.
All right, is there any other questions, discussion, anything from the public? All right, on the motion to continue to June 14th, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, next, Daniel and Linda Shea, 23 Sunset Point Road, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a single-family 3-bedroom house with attached garage, deck, entryway, install a Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, dry wells, driveway, retaining walls to remove trees and install native tree and shrub plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
I'll wait until Tom's presentation
Okay.
is completed to make any comments.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker, DSS Design. I'm here representing Dan Lachey, Teresa Sprague, Reflex Design, who helped with the finishing touches on the plan. The property here is up on the very dramatic site up on the north point. Sunset Point Road looking north up Pleasant Bay. As such, the winter winds, I'm sure there's a velocity zone coming in across Buzzards Bay. We have a velocity zone shown on here, and there's a 25-foot landward delineation of the velocity zone based on the Falmouth wetland regulations. There is the existing riprap going along the waterfront, and above the riprap we have lawn right up to the house. We did look at the old 1975 photos, and vegetation and house-wise and everything is pretty much in the same condition. It's an older family, been there for a long time. This is the first new owner in quite some time. There are some pine trees up along the road. A dead pine over on one side, a dead pine at the other end of the house on the west end, and otherwise just lawn, driveway up in front. The septic system, actually couldn't even find the exact location of the septic system, but it's wherever it is, it doesn't conform. There is above the riprap seawall is a coastal bank, and that coastal bank extends upward slightly in the lawn area where it's greater than, the slope is greater than 10 to 1. There is no area here that's above the riprap. There's no area that's deeper than 4 to 1. It drops to below 10 to 1 at the point where we have delineated the top of the coastal bank. And then we have being a coastal bank within a velocity zone, it has a 50-foot setback, 50-foot A zone, which is shown in the yellow highlighted line, and then the B zone is way up by the road. So, see, most all of the lot is, what's not within the B zone is within the flood zone. The flood zone is above the velocity zone. It's AE, elevation 17, so everything except the very southeast corner of the property is in flood zone. There actually is a waterway. Some of the street runoff comes along Sunset Point Road, and there's a paved waterway. Some of their road drainage actually comes onto the lot without benefit of a drainage easement or anything. So what they're proposing to do, as written in the advertisement, the trees will be raising the existing house, and I mentioned too that we have one line shown on here, the zoning setbacks 50 feet from mean high water. That actually is coincident with the 50-foot setback from land subject to tidal flowage. It's not labeled that way, and I don't show the B zone from that. And another same conversation, Jen asked me about the 75-foot setback from land under the ocean. And I measured this because we don't show where the land under the ocean is measured from low tide. Land subject to tidal action is measured from high tide. Land under the ocean is measured from low tide. We show the high water line, elevation 1.75, 1.7 NAVD. There's about a 4-foot tide zone here, and that would put the low tide about minus 2.3. But to be sort of, we didn't measure, locate where low tide is to get the 75-foot setback, but there's, even if we measured from what's on this map, the lowest contour here is elevation maybe -0.2, which is not down to low tide. The 75-foot setback from that, being the A zone of land under the ocean, does not come further landward, or at one point it comes just barely to be coincident with the 50-foot setback from the 50-foot setback from the coastal bank. So that the A zone is not more restrictive than what we have now. There is one point over in the far west side of the property where that 75 could be further landward than the 50 from the coastal bank, but it actually more affect the neighboring property than our property, and we have no change in coverage where that might come. I can submit a plan with all of these lines on it, but
Well, it's not
on
more
previous filing, I said things get very complicated with all of these setbacks on them.
It's not more restrictive.
I didn't know, so that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just asked Tom to look at it.
Yeah. So as you can see on your plan, they're proposing a new house. The structure is getting only about 300 square feet bigger. Well, it's actually getting a little narrower, it's coming closer to the road, and it's stretched out a little longer. The existing house is partly in the velocity zone, the FEMA velocity zone. This house is being pulled back, so it's no portion of the house is within the velocity zone. There is a revision that we put in last week where a patio was added, and this patio is not closer. You can say that walkway, just as a paved surface, is 35 feet from the top of the coastal bank, and the patio is the same distance from that 35 feet from the coastal bank. The closest point on the existing house is 36 feet from the coastal bank, and the proposed house is 43 feet from the coastal bank. So it's 7 feet further, no, I should say that, 7 feet further from the coastal bank than the existing house. As I said, there's 300 square feet more coverage, rather a 300 square foot larger structure. There is more coverage within the B zone. The total coverage has gone from 3,464 square feet to 5,590. And that's almost entirely because of the driveway in the front, where right now it's a single driveway going into the garage, and now it's a circular driveway. That being said, there is a 209 square foot reduction within the A zone, so there is no 3-to-1 mitigation required. The coverage in the B zone is increasing by 1,892, so the total coverage increase is 1,683 square feet, which will require 3,366 square feet of mitigation planting. That is shown on the plan, on our plan, but it's specified and laid out by Teresa, who can speak more about that. It is a 3-bedroom. It remains a 3-bedroom because we would not be able to get in an enlarged septic system and reserve area without requesting variances. So this is a 3-bedroom house, and we have a system that does meet the setback. We're 115 feet from land under the ocean. We're just 83 feet from the top of the coastal bank, this being an upgrade, not an increase, not new construction. That is allowed. We actually have it about 3 feet closer to the water and bank than we could, because I want to save the 22-inch pine that's in the southeast corner. So we moved it, just about as close to the garage, the septic system, about as close to the garage as I could, to save that pine tree. Otherwise, the other pines up within the street line and in the very front of the lot are being removed. Dead pine being removed. There is an 8-inch pine. So we're moving several pine trees, and we are adding cedar trees back in the site. And then so we have a room to work around the house. This area here, the area of the lawn that will remain, will be aerated and tilled. It'll be slightly regraded to be at a flatter slope that will reduce any runoff toward the coastal bank and the riprap. And I can point out that Teresa and I talked about location for these shrubs, and the reason we put them up in the corners and clumps, we felt that a massive planting, particularly with the cedar trees pulled toward away from the water, would have better survivability in that location, very harsh environment, rather than spreading them out in a narrow strip along the top of the riprap, where they would certainly be burned by the winter wind and the salt spray and all. So we think that this layout, these plants will survive better as we've drawn them. And the flagpole, it's an existing flagpole there now, and we want to put a new flagpole over on the west corner of the property. And there will be dry wells, and they are shown on the plan. Teresa, do you have anything? Teresa might have something to fill in where I left out.
Hi, good evening. For the record, Teresa Sprague. I do have some photographs. They are labeled, and I'm sure you've all been out to the site, but just to get a sense of where the areas where we're proposing the mitigation planting, what they currently look like. If I can pass those.
Thank you.
So those photographs show from the beach looking up at the riprap, and then the eastern and western property lines where we're proposing the mitigation planting. So overall, we're looking at proposing 5 trees to replace the trees that are being removed, and then the 2 trees for the tree per 1,000 square feet. 3,418 square feet of mitigation overall, including the 5 trees and 126 shrubs, mainly winterberry, holly, beach plum, bayberry, black chokeberry, and then some lower sweet fern. We're proposing just around the area for the path that's going to lead to the new relocated flagpole. So, you know, this site literally has nothing, where oftentimes I come to you with sites that are just completely overwhelmed with vines and invasive shrubs and trees. This site is literally just lawn, straight up to the top of the riprap from the house. So we'd be proposing to, my recommendation would be to remove the existing lawn in the areas where we're proposing to plant the shrubs, to seed that with a low native grass mix, and then plant the shrubs into that area. I'm happy to answer any questions about the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Start with Steve this time.
I have no questions right now.
All right. Jamie?
I'll go ahead.
Betsy? I have no questions. Maureen?
In the plan, it's different, the narrative, than what your narrative is. It says that the native shrubs are going to be planted in the existing lawn. So, which is it?
That's one, we didn't coordinate on that. I know in the past, you said to put them in the lawn, but...
Yeah. So why would we rip that out?
Because what I found in the past is when the plants go into the existing native lawn, the native lawn starts to grow up, the weeds tend to take over, people try and go in and string trim them down, and the plants suffer damage. So it's been my experience, and we've worked on one previously where we tried planting the plants into the existing lawn. The cool season grasses grow up around, choke out the shrubs. We ended up clearing the grasses away, then going in and sheet mulching to smother the existing grass in order to plant some native grasses in there. So I think using a native grass mix.
What native grass are you using?
So we use a mix of autumn bent grass. Path rush is one of the main, Juncus tenuis. Little blue stem, so some lower growing grasses that can just grow in between the shrubs and that play nicely with these maritime shrub species.
Okay, well, I would have to beg to differ a little bit, because I have seen them planted in existing lawns, and they've done, as long as people don't go in aggressively with a weed whipper, which
Yeah.
they're not supposed to be doing that.
Of course, we're not supposed to be doing that. but unfortunately, as the grass grows up and it starts to look weedy, and a lot of times in these cool season grass mixes, you know, it's not just the Kentucky bluegrass, but it's the velvet grass and those weedier cool season grasses that kind of come into the lawns and tend to grow up around and literally do choke out the shrubs. I certainly, if you would prefer us to do it that way, we would plant them into the existing lawn. It's just been my experience that it doesn't work. It's easier to take out the sod and plant some warm season native grasses.
That's a lot of area to have denuded and then waiting for the warm season grasses to come up, so.
Well, unlike other spots where we're removing invasive plant species and need to wait because we're doing follow-up treatment in this area, we could literally, my recommendation would be to remove the sod, plant the plants, and seed around it. Usually we're doing the opposite, where we're removing invasive species, seeding,
Right.
and then putting the plants in later.
Well, we'll deliberate on that.
Certainly.
The
Absolutely.
other thing, you keep saying you're going to give us 5 trees. I only see 4 on the plan, and I probably am missing where the 5th one is. They're
There's
only-
3 on the western property boundary and 2 on the eastern.
All right, I must have the wrong plan, because I have all 4 on one side. What is the date of your plan?
We'll see revision on May 9th.
I have no revision,
Yeah,
none.
I have 3 on too.
The plan that...
I have April 24th.
I'm special.
I guess so.
You have a special plan?
He's special, he has.
Okay, so you have the real plan. Okay, so
No,
that's
there
why.
was a revision, and you should have all gotten
Okay,
one.
so anyway, that's fine. That's why I kept looking for it, and anyway. And then again, as far as the 4 to 6, you made a very, very valid point of this being a very severe, harsh area, which is why not only are they going to get a beautiful view because you put everything to the sides, but it will protect the plants a little bit.
Yeah.
But I can't understand your logic of planting. If that's the reason for putting the plants to the side, why would you be proposing 4 to 8 foot cedars?
We're not, we're proposing 7 gallon.
How many? Only 5?
Five,
Well, then I think you
7
should think
gallon.
about doubling, because I would rather see 20 little teeny cedars there that are hidden down inside the shrubbery. And in your experience, I'm sure, and I have a lot too, they do not, nursery-grown cedars that are above the plant growth of the native plants
Yes.
will get toasted.
Well, that's why I'm proposing container-grown
Mm-hmm.
cedars, because the root system's a little bit more developed. In my experience with the ball and burlap cedars,
Yeah,
we
they
have a
don't make
looser
it.
ball, and then the root system just isn't as well developed. So that's why we're proposing 7 gallon, because realizing that you're going to be looking for something that's a little bit taller than like a 3 gallon size. So a 7 gallon size, the plant should come in at about 4 feet tall. So it's going to 4 to 5 feet, so it will be right in that level.
And how big are your mitigation plants?
3 gallons.
Yeah, how tall are they?
So they usually come in about 3 feet.
You get 3, okay.
Yeah.
All right, again, everybody out there, it's harsh.
It's super harsh, I agree,
And,
100%.
and again, there's good reasoning for it, but we also know the main reason is that it's the view, to protect it, because you could bring that down a little bit and make it thick in the front, which would be nice, not to have runoff into the coastal bank. The other thing is you have, again, I'm only on April 24th plan, I'm sorry, but it says in my narrative that you are going to aerate and till soil. You're basically redoing the entire lawn, am I correct?
I'm going to leave that up to Tom, because I did not work on the lawn plan, just the mitigation planting.
Yes, well, like I said, that will be, there's some grading there to bring the slope down, and it will be after construction.
So I have a real problem with that, because the limit of work is almost 30 feet off the house as it is. So how are you going to stabilize a totally new refurbished lawn? Because you have no wattles, you have nothing on the top of the coastal bank, you have no vegetation on the coastal bank. So how are you going to keep all that from running off over the coastal bank?
Well, as I said, the part that's going to be redone will be at a lower slope, so I think it will be...
Well, you have an arrow showing the lawn, and as we just saw the pictures, it's
Yes, well,
the site.
uphill of the limit of work.
So from the limit of work, that little teeny section is going to just stay what it is?
Below the limit of work.
Yep, you're not touching that. Okay. And that, we'll make that clear in the deliberation too, because I can't, it's going to be hard to understand how you're going to make that transition, and how they're going to have non-native bluegrass and whatever the grass is she just said were there. And now you're gonna put in a drought tolerant fescue and how they're gonna work together. So just think about that.
I don't know that much about the grass species, so.
Well, it'll be a big green line. And there is no irrigation, so,
I mean, certainly
Just-
when it's first installed, there's going to be a line that differentiates between the fescue mix. Over time, that line's going to disappear. So, I mean, like you said.
oh,
this
I'm
isn't-
I'm all set with it. The
Okay.
the client probably won't be.
Well, I mean, it's part of living.
And there's no
on a
irrigation there,
coastal
you
property.
understand that, right?
Of course,
Okay.
absolutely. And I believe the client understands that as well.
Okay.
So, yes, so no permanent irrigation, certainly just irrigation to get it installed. But I think Tom's point is that because the area that he's proposing to redo the lawn is within the limit of work, we're presuming it's going to be disturbed through the construction.
Well, I think that the limit of work was very generous at 30 feet, so I would, again, in deliberation, it might be moving. Thank you, that's all.
All right. Courtney?
I'm in agreement with Maury on that. I don't see why it's necessary to have such a big limit of work. I mean, I see that you got to put dry wells in and all that, but I think that could be tightened up so you don't disturb as much of that lawn area and create an issue. The only other thing which really sort of is in keeping with the efficiency of the process. You're here asking to do this project, and so the assumption is that all the ducks are in line and you've ironed out all the details so that when your design is submitted and we sit here and approve it, it's going to be wonderful and you won't have to come back because, oh dear, we just found out we can't do something. Okay? So that said, my question goes to something as mundane as the location of the AC units. Did you consult with the HVAC guy before you located those? Or did you just plant them there? And I'll tell you the reason I'm saying that is because I realize the technologies have changed, but the longer the run between those units and the heart of the system, the less efficient it is, the harder it has to work. And, what I would hate to do is have an AC guy come in and say, well, we really want to plant these over here. And now you come back and it causes you aggravation and us aggravation while you amend the plan. That's all I'm saying. It's not a huge issue.
My green thumb doesn't extend to HVAC. I was actually the architect who planted them in that location. So I'll just assume, I don't know if he consulted an HVAC person.
Okay, so this was not something you determined?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'd also like to point out, I mean, we have the reason that limit of work and that amount of lawn, as I said, I'm regrading that somewhat, that lawn area to bring it down, and so we do need, from the house to that limit of work, it's going to be regraded down to about 2% rather than the 6 or 8%. So that's why that distance is going to...
Yeah, that's right. It was in your narrative. I'm sorry. Okay, I don't have any other questions.
All right. Could you just say, other than the placement of the trees, what differences there are between the current plan and the previous one?
Basically, the patio was added.
Okay.
The patio was added, which increased the mitigation planting by 500 or 600 square feet for putting the patio in, and then it was Teresa had her input on the planting plan itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the main structural change to the plan was the patio.
All right. Thank you.
Could you just point the patio out on your plan, just so we can,
Maureen,
because we don't have it?
on the back end of the
Okay, it's a little
garage.
circle, is that what, okay.
Yeah. it's a
Gotcha,
little circle
thank
on
you.
the back end of the garage.
Patio with a fire pit in the middle.
We don't have that.
Yeah,
So
here.
good.
Some
Make one more.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay, anything else from the board? Any questions or comments from the public?
I didn't see that.
All right.
Motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
you get that, Susan? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Didn't seem like it was going that way. Sometimes I think the long way.
Next, Woods Hole Golf Club, 130 Clisset Avenue, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, for permission to remove large native trees and shrubs, invasive shrubs and vines, install erosion control blankets, create a biofiltration swale at the edge of the 18th hole, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Madam Chair, I have to recuse myself.
All right.
Good evening, Katrine Higgins from Wilkinson Ecological Design, representing the applicant. In the audience here is Tom Bunker from BSS, who can address any questions regarding the survey, as well as Andrew McGee, also from Wilkinson, and also various members of the golf course, I believe, are here as well. So the project before you this evening proposes 31,600 square feet, or roughly 3/4 of an acre, of invasive plant removal, soil stabilization, and native plant restoration. And this is all in an effort to provide enhanced habitat value and stormwater function to the resource areas. In terms of existing conditions, if you were out there recently, you would have seen that there's a mix of native and non-native vegetation currently growing in the project area. And it really varies dependent upon the location within the project area. There's quite a range of conditions. On the one hand, you have great species like hazelnut and arrowwood viburnum and chokeberry, serviceberry, sassafras, and oak growing. And then on the other hand, you have the invasive non-native species that are taking over plant communities all over the Cape. Things like Asiatic bittersweet, border privet, English ivy, vine honeysuckle, shrub honeysuckle, and multiflora rose. They're really thriving, particularly on the edge of the lawn area. You can really see the vines in particular growing and almost enveloping the existing vegetation, the native stuff that should be there. In addition, there's also a range of health in the tree canopy as well. So within the overall tree canopy in the area, we've identified about 10 trees that are showing signs of decline or distress. You can see they're sprouting from their trunks, which is a clear sign that they're in their decline. And there's already one tree that's dead. In general, just beyond those trees, as I mentioned before, many of the native species are currently being choked out by the invasive vines. They're visibly broken and stressed by these aggressive invasive species. And what's really apparent is if you look especially farther in the project area on the woodland floor, it's very sparsely vegetated besides some vine honeysuckle. And actually, more recently, we saw a sprig of knotweed coming in because the invasive plants have outcompeted the grasses and the herbaceous plants that should be there. So the main goal of our project is to create a planting and management plan with the most comprehensive and ecologically positive impact. The project aims to increase both plant and animal diversity by creating a tiered planting gradient from high canopy climax woodland to grasses and herbaceous plants in 3 planting areas. We propose to remove all the non-native and invasive vegetation by hand, where access is difficult, and then with low impact machinery where access is feasible and we could get in there with a low impact equipment. And we're proposing to replant with species appropriate for the various conditions of the project area. So you really, in our land management plan on page 5, we provided a diagram of these 3 different distinct planting areas that we're proposing. First, there's a light green area, which is the coastal woodland to the west of the site. It's approximately 12,000 square feet in size. And here we're proposing to plant 33 canopy trees, all native to a coastal woodland area. And we're proposing tupelo, white oak, eastern red cedar, and pignut hickory in this area, 33 trees. And these will be planted adjacent to the existing woodland, serving to expand the existing wildlife corridor of the region. These trees also serve as mitigation for the distressed trees that I mentioned previously that we're proposing to remove. So we're proposing to plant at a 3-to-1 replacement ratio For the trees that we're proposing to remove, we're proposing to plant 3 trees to the 1, so 33 trees total. As these trees mature, they will reinforce the climax woodland and provide nesting opportunities, cover, and hard mass nuts for mammals and birds. And we really detailed that in our land management plan. The second area, which is approximately 13,300 square feet, it's identified in that diagram that I mentioned in dark green, and it's lying between the light green area and the blue area on the diagram. We're proposing in this area to manage to create space within the existing sumac and sassafras to interplant with smaller understory trees and shrubs found in early successional native habitats. As our land management plan described, it's really these early successional habitats that are very rare and in decline on Cape Cod and throughout Massachusetts, throughout the Northeast, really. And that's mainly because of changes in land management practices, less farming, and more development. So we're really trying to promote this early successional habitat plant community that is in decline in this area, and in an effort to get these species growing here that are appropriate habitat for grouse, warbler, bobwhite, and New England cottontail rabbit, which are also in decline because of this plant community being in decline. In this area of managed sumac and sassafras, it is proposed that 65 native shrubs providing soft mass fruit and hard mass nuts are planted. These will provide forage for migrating birds and local wildlife. And the shrubs and understory trees will include hazelnut, American hazelnut, arrowwood viburnum, chokeberry, elderberry, highbush blueberry, serviceberry, and winterberry. And the last tier, the third tier in the planting plan gradient, lies in a narrow band that tracks along the edge of the golf course fairway. It's blue, shown in blue in that diagram, and covers roughly 3,500 square feet. Once the area is cleared of invasive species, it's quite thick in this area, we're proposing to immediately seed it and blanket with a biodegradable stabilization blanket, and then plant 672 plugs and 179 woodland shrubs. And really the effort here is about stormwater function. We're proposing to create a biofiltration swale, essentially a rain garden, that will slow and capture stormwater and allow it to infiltrate in the site directly, immediately into the soils before it has a chance to become runoff. Stormwater management in an area like this, especially on a steeply sloping site, is really key to reducing erosion as well. So just to summarize our efforts, in about 3/4 of an acre, we're proposing to remove all non-native and invasive plants, to plant 33 trees, plant 244 native shrubs, 672 native plugs, and seed all exposed soils with a salt-tolerant and Cape Cod meadow mix. This is really a significant opportunity, particularly for a golf course. There's not too many golf courses, I don't think, that are thinking so environmentally forward-thinking, and it's really exciting that we were excited to be involved in this opportunity to create a species-diverse native gradient planting that increases biodiversity of both plant and animal species. And in addition to the habitat value, it's really the stormwater function, reducing stormwater runoff, reducing erosion, and encouraging infiltration right at the site. So this scheme would rejuvenate what is today a stressed plant community with a healthy native habitat, and as a plan it aims to regenerate a large area of native habitat while helping protect the natural resources adjacent to and including the Quistit Harbor. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Jim?
A couple of things.
Sure.
Define manage sassafras and sumac, because you've said invasive plants and you've said non-native. And
Right.
you can have native plants that are fairly aggressive
Right.
and can be considered by some invasive.
Right.
So are you including removing all of the sassafras and sumac?
Not all of it. If you
Not
see
all of
on
it.
page 7 of our land management plan, as you mentioned, it is quite aggressive, so we're trying to maintain it, definitely maintain it. There's a value in having it there, but just manage it in a way to strategically select areas of the sassafras and sumac that will either be left in place or cut to the base to regrow. So
And
that
what
second-
percentage of that do you think?
Probably out of the whole 30 to 40%. It was kind of a field decision too, but if you had any recommendations.
Okay. And of that 13,000 in that early successional habitat restoration, what percentage of invasives do you feel you have to remove? Like what percentage? I'm just trying to get 13,000 square feet, you're putting 65 shrubs back. It doesn't really seem like a whole lot in that area. And I was out there, and I've been out there multiple times because the golf course has requested the removal of those oak trees that you were now requesting
Right.
over the past 3 years to enhance the view there. I understand that the vines have been taken out of those trees over the past years. They do look a bit stressed with the sprouts coming out, but that's
Yep.
also because they've been cutting the limbs on them. There were fresh cuts out there today. That said, what percentage of invasives are there? Do you think that you have to remove to replace with that 65 shrubs?
I don't want to just,
I know,
I'm
putting you on the spot
yeah,
here, but
I
I
could
don't mean to,
definitely-
I'm just trying to
Yep.
get it in my, because I'll go out there and look at it one way, so I'm trying to
Right.
see how you guys are looking at the site, because it is within the A zone of that freshwater wetland on the back side, and I know some of my commissioners are very concerned with that, so I'm trying to
Right.
help you put their minds at ease right
Right.
now.
So we did most of the design work in the winter, so it was hard to tell exactly what was going on, and that was one of the topics of our discussion, is
Yeah.
that percentage. And if, it could be something that we go back and take a look at, and because to determine the amount of invasive removal that's needed, now that everything's growing back, the bittersweet is out in full bloom and you can really see the leaves, and then kind of reassess the amount of shrubs that we're proposing in that area. Would that be helpful?
I think it would be required.
Okay.
I mean, you go out there in the winter, you go out there like today, and
Right.
Everything's starting to leaf out, to bloom, and it looks a lot different.
Right.
I do agree that in your, what do you call it, your fairway edge area definitely does need some work. There's a lot of invasives right along that edge, and then just kind of drops down. So
Right.
there is room for improvement in that area. I'm going to have to say I do have some concerns with the removal of those oaks, so that's something the board's going to need to discuss. And we may ask you to go back out there and just take another look at that area. But again, this is the A zone to that wetland, and I know there is some concern with that.
And one of the density within that larger area was to account for the sumac and the sassafras.
There's a lot there.
Right.
There is a lot there.
We don't want to overplant it, knowing that a lot of that is healthy and viable. So it's that fine line between both, I think.
Okay. Thank you. And then there was another dead oak in the middle of there. Where is that on the plan, on your little green area up in here?
Yes, that's one of the trees that we've identified to be removed is actually dead already.
Okay.
It's one of these guys in here.
Yeah, okay. I'm concerned with removing those trees, but, okay, that's it.
All right, thank you, Jen. Betsy?
I'm opposed to removing any of the oaks within the A zone. We wouldn't allow any homeowner to do it, and it doesn't meet performance standards. So if you wanted to do it, you'd have to come back and request a variance,
Okay.
which I think would be very difficult for you to get a variance. As far as the planting all the oaks over to the west, I don't have a problem with that. And if you were to remove the oaks in the B zone, just to the You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How would you approach that area how do you plan to get into this area to work?
So it would be a combination of getting some access to a machine to be able to remove the vegetation, but for the most part, it would be hand work within, we try to get maybe a dingo or something. Trying to think where to point out. Maybe where we're calling out those black chokeberry somewhere in here. And then just hand work to be, and then bring it back to the equipment and then take it out.
Okay.
And we've talked to the golf
there
course
is-
about access.
There is a lot of invasive that could be freshened up. On the other hand, as it is now, I mean, you go out today, it's all leafing out. It is serving to protect the freshwater swamp and the quissit from runoff.
The invasive?
Well, that's this whole band of vegetation.
It's really the grass layer that's lacking here that is going to do the heavy lifting to protect the wetland, because you need the native grasses that go down, their root systems go down 9, 10 feet into the soil and really bind the soils and create the filter between the wetland. Even though it appears that bittersweet is nice and green and full.
No, I know that.
Okay.
I know what bittersweet
Okay, sorry.
roots do.
There.
No, I don't have
Yeah.
a problem with that.
Okay.
But native woody shrubs will also do the same
Sure.
thing, as will all these large oaks. And so I would hate to see those root systems disturbed. And I would hate to see that, you think of it, when you note this, you work with these.
Right.
But basically, what you see above ground in terms of canopy is below ground in terms of root system. So it's a huge surface area that's removing a lot of pollutants and water. It's a big, moving a lot of water through evapotranspiration. So those are my comments.
Okay. Jamie?
I have nothing to add.
Steve?
I just wanted to follow up on the oak trees as educational. The oaks that are to be removed from the A zone, why?
They are in decline right now.
And you were saying they were getting undergrowth,
Right.
showing that, so you
And-
expect them to continue to deteriorate even after you clear the area?
We would, correct. And we're not proposing to remove all the oaks in the area, just this
Right,
one.
I see, right.
And this is a comprehensive project, so to go in here and do all this invasive work and get the seed layer really flourishing and add all these shrubs, and then to come in and remove a tree in 2 years from now, or have a tree die and hit all the newly planted species, there's.
It's part of native woods. This is what happens in native woods. This is a woodland here.
Right. But we're not proposing to remove the entire woodland, but, we just noticed that these trees are in decline, and so we're just trying to have a
Okay.
proactive
That's
approach
reasonable.
to
That was
manage
the
it.
only question I had.
Okay, thank you.
Courtney?
I have to agree with Betsy. If an oak is dead, yes, remove it. But, this is, if you get a healthy tree, it shouldn't be removed. And
May I make a comment? I wouldn't even remove a dead oak here. This is the kind of where Tom had a dead oak where he was, it was right next to the house, and it's been dead for
Years.
years and years. But this is the kind of there are things that live in declining trees.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're right. I mean, I have one at my house that lays down and it looks good, and the birds run around in there, and not just me. And so it's good. So I guess you're getting a message. plan this project in such a way that you don't tear those up. The other question I have is, the plants you've selected will survive in that atmosphere? I mean, survivability is a big issue.
Most
I
definitely.
mean, would you plan to apply desiccants to some of those?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that should be part of your plan.
We do that in all of our projects. Would the commission be amenable to considering a coppicing strategy to try to flush cut those oaks and allow them to regrow to get them to be of better health? Because they do definitely have signs of decline.
Well, I think
If we came back with
I'm-
a strategy on that?
there are a few places where we have allowed flush cutting, where their trees were definitely, they had been kind of cut off anyway. But I would rather wait a couple of years. I agree with Jen that, you know, they did have invasive vines, and that's a problem. I mean, when I moved into my house, there were invasive vines on a lot of the oaks, and I pulled them all down, and they're fine. I mean, you have to keep managing with invasive. You know that with invasives, you have to keep going in.
Yep.
But I would rather see how they do over, you know, the next 10 years.
I hate to make this sound like a tag team match, but I think, you know, you say that the oaks are showing signs of distress. And a lot of the oaks in this area, as you well know,
Right.
have been defoliated repeatedly by winter moths, and now we've got gypsy moths coming back.
Correct.
And I have a lot of oaks on my property just up the road from where you are talking about
Right.
that have been besieged by these things. And I don't want to lose them.
Right.
So I'm being proactive by spraying and by doing things like this, and perhaps you should investigate those kinds of possibilities to save these oaks. I'm all in favor of invasive removal. I mean, I think that's a good thing, and to encourage natives. But when you got something that's native and it likes where it is, and why take it down?
Would you be willing to go back out into the field and just to look in that area now that it's kind of regrowing, and that's in my area? So does the board have any concerns with the removal of the invasives in that area and the management of the sassafras and sumac?
No, but I would like you to have an agreement as to what was going to happen, because it's a little bit unclear.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe continue and go back out and we can meet in the field, and then that way I can have a better kind of
Sure.
handle on what you're looking at?
Yep. That'd be
Okay.
great. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm having a little bit of concern about tearing out sumacs and those kinds of things. They grow very well in that area, particularly right along the edge of the marsh and wetlands. And
Well, that's why I asked the percentage that's
Yeah.
going to come out,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
percentage that's going
I'd like to
to
see
stay.
any of them come out, for that matter. That's not the same as bittersweet.
Correct. We can provide additional details on that, and Jen, I'd be happy to meet out on site.
Yeah,
with you.
that's fine.
Yeah.
You can take all the bittersweet out,
Yeah.
all that you can.
And the
all that you can
bittersweet is
manage.
right, mainly along the end. I mean, those trees were covered in vines like 2 years ago, covered 2 or 3 years ago. But like I said, I do like that edge. I think that it will be helpful in that area.
And if nothing's done in this entire area, that bittersweet and all those invasives are just going to keep creeping to the
No, we
wetland.
absolutely think that should be managed, and I think Courtney's right. I mean, these are beautiful oaks here, and probably part of the decline is the various things that have hit the oaks over the last
Right.
few years. So if you've incorporated that into your management plan, I think
Okay.
we would like to see that.
So,
Okay, let me just think for 1 second on what my schedule is and.
Other than those oaks, I think this is a well-documented plan.
Yeah,
I really
it
think
is.
that it's an improvement. All the oaks that you're planting on this side are interesting. Man, I just have to move the tee box up a couple yards. No, just,
I'm probably unavailable, I know I'm definitely unavailable next week. It would have to probably be around if I could meet you out there, the 1st or 2nd of June, would you be able to put your plan together, and I'm really going to put you on the spot here, put your plan together for the 7th, if I could get you on June 14th? That only gives you a couple of days.
Could I suggest we do the next week? Because Courtney might not be there that day, and I definitely won't be there
What's
When?
that, the
on the
7th?
14th.
Yeah, 14th.
Courtney, are you here on the 14th?
14th I'll be here. It's the 7th I won't be here.
Oh, all right.
You won't be here on the 14th?
I won't be here. Well, I mean, I could come in after flying from Europe,
Well,
if you want to deal with me then.
that gives us no cushion on the quorum, but without Betsy.
Do you want to do the 28th instead? The board feel better about that? I hate
I
to
would,
put you
since
out
there
that
was
back,
five
but it
of
gives
us.
me a little bit, it gives them a little cushion because I only have 5 of them.
Is that acceptable?
The 28th.
The 28th of June, because we don't have, the only reasons they're not scheduled to have a hearing on the 21st. That's why I wouldn't put you on the 21st. You'd be the only one here.
I'll come in. At the request of the applicant, I move to continue this to the 21st.
Second.
Okay, motion and a
I
second.
have
First?
one quick question.
That's fine,
after-
we may have more.
28th of June, sorry, at the request of the applicant, I move to continue to the 28th of June.
When is the ideal time to start your work? It's kind of like right now, right?
14th of June.
I can't do that. All right, we'll do the 28th, and we'll get you in order real quick after that.
And what's the best way to schedule our site visit?
Email myself and then CC my administrative assistant, and that's just at concom@falmouthmass.us.
Okay. Thank you.
All right,
One more. Do you have a butters card?
is there anything anybody else would like to say on this?
I was wondering why you were here.
Tom, you're
Okay.
involved with this?
So, we have a motion and a second to continue to June 24th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
28th.
28th.
28th, I'm sorry. Opposed? Okay, unanimous, so moved. That was
24th,
easy.
Madam Chairman, is a Saturday, and you'd be here all by yourself.
Yes, okay. Oh, yeah, I did hear you. It's a good recognize. Now then. This one,
Susan, I'm back.
do not know. Oh, this is, okay. Moving along. Donald and Kathleen Mitchison, 20 Circle Road, Hoyt, Massachusetts, for permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a single-family, 3-bedroom house with attached garage, deck, entryway, install a Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, dry wells, driveway, retaining walls, to remove trees and shrubs and install native tree and shrub plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Hello, Mike. How is this pronounced? Your client's name? Meskison? Meskison. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Teresa Sprague from Blue Flax Design. Blue Flax Design designed the mitigation planting plans and prepared the specifications that were part of our application. As you know, the Meshersons are here tonight. Don and Kathy, the property owners, may want to speak to you after we make our presentation. Or they may be able to answer questions that we're unable to answer. So the applicant owns the property at number 20 Circle Road. Circle Road is on the corner of, as you might expect, Circle Road and Sea Pit. It has frontage on Sea Pit Road. It has water frontage on Sea Pit River, which really isn't a river, but it's called Sea Pit River. There's an existing single-family dwelling. If you look at sheet 1 of 3 of the plan set, there's a detached garage, a paved parking area, lawn areas, trees, landscaping. The waterfront has a riprap retaining wall. They share a dock with the neighbor to the south. The wetland resources in question include a coastal beach, land under the ocean, a land containing shellfish, and just on the edge of the property is the end of a finger-like projection of salt marsh. There's a bordering vegetated wetland to the north on the other side of the street from Circle Road. It was delineated by Jack Vaccaro, and data sheets were provided as part of the application. There's also 2 coastal banks on the property. There's one between the house and Sea Pit River fronting on the coastal beach. There is another that is landward of the house that is actually facing away from the ocean towards the BVW. It's a coastal bank because it meets the definition for slope, and it also has a flood zone on it, which is an AE12 flood zone. And all of the associated no disturbance zone A's and outer buffer zone B's to these various wetland resources are on the plan. We also added, included in our application, a summary of the impervious surface calculations and the increases from the existing condition to the proposed. Is graphically depicted on 11 by 17 plans in your application package. The numbers are summarized in notes on the plan. And the net result is because of the changes to the property, there's a requirement for a net total square footage of mitigation planting of over 10,000 square feet. The mitigation planting plan will be reviewed and described to you by Teresa. The existing house is proposed to be demolished and reconstructed in a way that it does not move closer to a wetland resource. In fact, it actually shifts back slightly from the wetland resources to the east, namely the coastal bank and coastal beach on the Sea Pit River. While the house is larger, it is no closer. Mitigation is required for the increases in impervious surfaces due to the change in the size of the house, but also because of the inclusion of a new driveway that is shown leading off of Sea Pit to a new garage that faces Sea Pit. When the Shizens originally acquired the property over 20 years ago, I think, they used it primarily as a summer home, and as time goes on, they want to convert it into their retirement home and a home for their extended family to enjoy in summer and at times when it's appropriate. This is one of the reasons that we proposed the driveway here, becoming a conversion to a retirement home. The Mishizans are looking to one-floor living. They want to have access to, with vehicles at this level. The house has been designed such that it will be easily accessible by them in their retirement years. Today, that's not possible. Parking occurs here, and there's a series of steps up the grade to get into the house. So looking to the future, they'd like that added ease of living, which is why they're proposing a driveway here to a garage. So this driveway is a significant reason for the required mitigation planting, which they understand are willing to do. The existing house is currently served by a cesspool, substandard cesspool located here, which will be replaced and upgraded to a Title V septic system that'll be placed virtually as far as possible from the Wetland Resources. It can be right to the edge of the street. It's in excess of 100 feet from the wetland. It is less than 100 feet from the coastal bank. This coastal bank is the type of coastal bank that I've discussed with you in the recent past, but slightly different. It's the type that has no disturbance zone A associated with it because it is not bordering on another wetland. It's not connected to another part of a coastal bank. So that has a 100-foot outer buffer zone B associated with it. But still, there's a significant amount of mitigation planting required. The areas where we wish to propose the mitigation planting are first in the A zone to the BVW, which also happens to be on the resource area coastal bank. So your regulations speak to trying to enhance and thicken previously disturbed A-zone buffers. But I think it's understood that even preferable to an A-zone buffer is to restore an actual resource area, which in this case is wooded with trees, but the understory is grasses. So that entire area, which is a wetland resource, not a buffer, will be planted. And then adjacent to it will be buffer plantings. And then on the seaward side, there's an additional proposal to enhance the buffer with additional buffer plantings, all of which the details will be reviewed with you by Teresa. The project is associated with it, of course, a limit of work, which is wrapping around the house on this side, and this area is currently grass. We're proposing dry wells for roof runoff. We're proposing to remove a portion of the pavement in this location and replace it with reinforced grass. It's not in the plan is this would be secondary parking for guests, and this would be the primary access to the new house. We're also showing a limit of work surrounding the edge of the driveway and the septic on this side. So all the work, other than the mitigation planting, will be inside the limit of work. There's AC units shown and a rinse station on this side. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Teresa, and then I believe Kathy may want to speak a little bit about their plans and how they use the house and why we selected the areas we did for the mitigation planting. And then we're all available for questions.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks. Once again, Teresa Sprague, Blue Flax Design. Mike did a pretty good job of reviewing the mitigation planting. Again, I do have some photographs of the site that I'd like to share. They're all labeled with date and location. So I just, as I go through, these might be helpful to look at as we're
Thank you.
So as Mike pointed out, the mitigation required is approximately 11,535 square feet for 4,696 square feet of increase in impervious surface, and that includes the new proposed house as well as the proposed driveway. Of the proposed mitigation, 5,757 square feet is proposed within Zone A, and 5,778 square feet is proposed within Zone B. You can see that there are several trees that are proposed to be removed. It's 11 in total, as well as some black locust trees that are shown in red on our plan on the site. They're mainly within the landscape bed area that's shown in yellow, and then again along the northern property line. In addition to that, in the existing landscape bed just to the south of the stone steps, there's a small amount of English ivy and Asiatic bittersweet that we'd be proposing to remove from that area. So back when the original riprap was approved in the rebuilding of the stone steps about 18 years ago, at the time lawn went up to the top of the riprap. At that time, there was a request by the Conservation Commission to do some plantings above the riprap, and those plantings are current landscape beds, and you can see the pictures that I passed around show a significant amount of mulch and some exotics, and then even some exotic invasives. There's some Japanese barberry in there. So we are proposing to remove all of the non-native exotic species, and we've calculated in the area to the north of the stone steps, that's about 50% of the area, and to the area shown in yellow to the south of the stone steps, we'd be looking at adding an additional 20% of plants. So we've calculated the mitigation in those two areas based on what's existing for vegetation and then the area that's currently mulch that we'd be proposing to plant out. In addition to that, we're proposing to remove some additional lawn from the area directly adjacent to the landscape beds that are shown in yellow. But you can see that a significant amount of the mitigation that we're proposing is located along the northern property line, just to the west of the proposed house. You can see in the photos that I've passed around that there's basically lawn, some pine needles, there's no understory. There are some canopy pitch pine and oak trees which will remain. So the understory there would be planted with a mix of winterberry holly, sheep laurel, spice bush, amelanchier, some low bush blueberry and black huckleberry, bayberry, and hazelnut, as there is some hazelnut existing on site. For trees, we're proposing a total of 30 trees to replace the 11 that are being removed. Those are a mix of amelanchier, American holly, eastern red cedars, tuberose, pitch pines, and white swamp oak throughout the property. On the just to the south of the proposed driveway, we're proposing to plant a significant number of tupelo trees with the ground cover layer and understory layer planted with a mix of spice bush and some black huckleberry. The area at the top of the riprap, we're proposing to remove the black locust and replant with pitch pine, as well as a mix of other native species, including beach plum, some sheep laurel, and some sweet fern in that area. To the east of the garage, the single-car garage, we're proposing to, again, remove some black locust trees and then plant that out with American holly with an inkberry understory. There is one cherry tree that's currently leaning against the garage. I've included a picture. We are proposing to remove that cherry tree that's leaning against the garage and plant a tupelo in the area a little further away. The existing asphalt driveway just to the south of the one-car garage will be torn up, and that will, grass pave will be put in there. So it'll be basically a grid pattern with grass planted in. That area, as you can see from the photographs, is mainly used for storage of a boat, and that's how it will be used so seasonally in the future, with, as Mike pointed out, the main driveway becoming the driveway leading off of Sea Pit Road. A couple of things through the design process that we looked at were how the property owners use this property, so the function of the property, as well as concerns about safety. So we are proposing to leave the lawn area to the east of the house open. There are two concerns that were brought up to us, and one is the recreational use of the property, and I think the property owners will come and discuss that with you further, as well as concerns about sight lines to the beach and to the dock. So through past experience, they've discovered that the sight line to the beach is very important. Of course, they share the dock with the neighbor, so sight lines to the dock for safety issues are also extremely important to the property owners. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed mitigation and the species chosen and the placement of the mitigation.
Thank you. Would you like to speak now, or would you like to speak after we ask our questions?
Either is fine.
Okay. All right. Jen, do you have anything?
No, only that when I met with Teresa and Mike about this project, I did ask why more of the mitigation plantings weren't put near Sea Pit River. I mean, that was a big thing. The board likes to see that. I understand sightlines to the dock and the beach. I understand recreational use of the property, but this board makes decisions on a property, not a family or an individual. So we have to look at the fact that, you know, this property could change hands, as, I don't know, early as the day after we issue an order of conditions, and so that use might be different. So this board always does like the mitigation plantings closer to the resource areas. Where they have it along the bank is nice. It does enhance that area, but maybe being able to move some of that over behind, closer to the Sea Pit River area would be good, because it is separating. Circle Road does kind of bisect between where those plantings are and the wetland. Those were my only comments. I reviewed it with the applicant's representatives, and that was my only comment.
All right. Steve?
I didn't have any comments.
All right. Jamie?
Thank you.
The garage is staying and most of the existing pavement is staying.
This garage is staying and will end up being more of a storage for all their stuff, boating stuff, kayaks, things like that. And the pavement that approaches up to the garage or area will remain, but this section will be removed.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing else?
Betsy?
Just two comments. I'm glad you're moving it a little bit back from Sea Pit River, but I agree with Jen that more of the mitigation planning should be between the house and the river. I mean, there could be some lawn, but in general, the mitigation planning should go between the work and the resources. Major resources that would be majorly affected.
I understand what you're saying, and Madam Chairman, if I could, I'm going to just emphasize one more time the importance of it, and I'm hoping that Kathy can add to what I'm going to say. The width of that grass area is about 35 feet to 40 on average, and we were talking about it before the meeting, and the Machismos gave me a lot of history about how the family grew up there and how they use the area and how it's associated with the beach access and Washburn Island, and it's where they gather for their outside activities, and it's been that way for a very long time. Now, we recognize that we're changing things, and we also understand your rules, but that area is important, and we will add more. Hopefully Kathy can add more to that, and then we're going to have to consider what you're saying and think about it and how we might be able to address your concern.
Did you have?
Yeah, my only other comment is maybe put more trees in that area. I mean, what do you have?
So we have,
Six pitch pines?
3 American holly and 6 pitch pines. So I think the area, so connectivity is a little bit broken off, but it's basically because of the access to the beach. So we need to keep access open here because there's a set of wooden steps that lead down to the beach,
Yep.
or else this would be able to wrap around and connect. So we're trying to leave an access path open, and again, it's definitely about being able to see and sight lines to the beach area from here. So we're trying not to block off the beach area in this section, so that's why we have the pitch pines planted here, and then again, pitch pines planted over here. So from the deck, from the grass, they'll be able to see the dock, but these won't obstruct views to the dock, and then these won't obstruct views to the beach. We've tucked them in the corner, and then we've got a number of American hollies up along here. So you're right, as far as connectivity goes, it would be ideal to have this connect all the way across, but because of the existing steps, we're unable to do that. And then the other thing I also wanted to point out is the way this breaks up into mitigation areas. We have almost an equal amount of mitigation area within planting within Zone A as Zone B. So we've got 5,757 square feet of mitigation located within an A zone, and then 5,778 within the B zone. So it kind of breaks up, and I realize that
But
this...
the A zone to the freshwater wetland, as
Right.
opposed to the A zone to the river.
Right, so the only thing that we could say about that is regardless of the A zone, it's still an A zone, and so we're still required to plant at 3-to-1. So
Right,
that's
right.
what drives us up to that 11,535 square feet of mitigation, which is, I mean, when it comes down to totals, we're looking at 30 trees and 646 shrubs. So it's a significant amount of planting on the site. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
I have a quick question. Teresa, can you go for why the black locusts are being removed again?
Just because they're invasive trees, and I presumed that you would want them removed.
Well, I have a comment about black locust.
Yes.
There's another engineer, you don't say this, Mike, but it's another engineer in town who always says it's in the pea family. And the pea family, you know, people will, in
Yes.
agriculture.
They're
you'll
nitrogen
put-
fixers, yes.
But if you look at why plants are nitrogen fixers, it's when there's very low nitrogen.
Exactly.
So you plant it when the soil's been depleted, and then
Yeah.
you plant a pea crop, some kind
Yes.
of pea crop.
Yep.
But the fact is, those genes aren't turned on if there's enough nitrogen around. So
Right.
they're only going to be fixing nitrogen if the plant's going to need nitrogen.
Right.
Otherwise, those bacteria aren't going to be working that way.
Right, and so black locust in general, I agree with you, it's a nitrogen fixer, and I don't see that as a major concern on this site, the fact that it's a nitrogen fixer, but it is recognized as an invasive plant species by the Massachusetts Invasive Plant Advisory Group, and it does sucker, so it suckers very quickly and will outcompete
Spray.
native plant species.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we're proposing to remove it. Frankly, you know, here in the Cape, it's issue of being a nitrogen fixer because our soils are usually nitrogen poor unless you're dumping tons of fertilizer on them. It's not generally an issue except for the fact that they sucker and that they do outcompete native plant
Yeah,
species.
I mean, there's some places where we just have, some wetlands are just protected
Right.
by black locust.
Right.
We wouldn't advocate
Removing
eliminating
them,
all of them.
yes. Yep, I agree with you 100%. And so we're really only proposing to remove them because they're listed as invasive plant species here. So I don't see them causing a particular problem on this site, and that's why we're trying to replace them with other native plant species.
I have nothing more to say.
All right. Maureen?
Hi, Teresa. You said I think in the narrative that it's 139 caliper inches of trees being removed. How many caliper inches of the 30 trees are we getting?
So we are proposing, I did not measure these out by caliper inch, but if you give me a minute, I can do that.
Yeah, because the only one I saw was the one swamp oak.
Yeah, the one
That was
and a half
an
inch
inch to inch and a
caliper.
half, but all the rest are just B&Bs or gallonage.
Yeah, so 6 to 7 foot, Pinus rigida is about the same thing, 1 and 1.5 inch. Same thing with the 25-gallon Tupelo, 15-gallon Cedar, 1.5 inch. The 4 to 5 foot B&B on the Ilex opaca, I was just at the nursery yesterday, I'd say they're all about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And then the 15-gallon Shadwell is probably about a 1 inch caliper tree.
Okay, so now the American holly, the 4 to 5 footer,
Yeah,
there are going to be 3 of those. How large do they get?
over time, they'll get to be 50 feet tall.
So why are you planting them 10 feet apart?
In general, that's the planting specs that the commission likes to see, so that's what we're proposing them as.
Well,
For
not
cedars-
really.
For cedars, yeah.
Yeah, for
For
cedars.
the hollies, you can do
Well, cedars will
like-
get to be the same
Yeah,
size.
the hollies, I
Yeah.
would spread them out.
And there's room to spread them out there, so, but,
Yeah, I would
You're-
definitely spread them out
Yeah,
more.
because you're putting an understory of inkberries, and the inkberries will be suffocated in, 8
Right.
years, so
yeah,
those,
so
it
the
won't be
inkberries will
mitigation
be
anymore.
generally, and there's certainly room to spread it out there. We're also proposing a little bit of Ilex verticillata in the same area, but there is room to spread those trees out. In general, the commission likes 10 foot on center spacing on the trees, so we
Well, when they're
use 10
appropriate
foot.
trees, then you
Yes.
do 10
And
foot.
cedars get to be about the same size, and we're showing our cedars at 15 foot on center, so that's not a problem. We could certainly do that.
So the other question I have, Teresa, the integrity of the existing trees that you are leaving on the lot, especially on the coastal bank,
Yes.
which you can barely see. I would like to know how you're going to dig 25-gallon tubs and 15-gallon tubs that are this big around these existing roots without impacting them.
So for the Amelanchier and so the Amelanchier, everything's showing, you can see from the photos that I provided that most of the trees are down closer to Circle Road. So the smaller trees are going up.
I'm talking about by the existing dock. There are all sorts of deciduous trees in there.
Those are all locust.
Okay, those are all
that
the
are being
locusts that are being removed?
Yes, yeah, the locusts are all shown in red that are being removed. I think Mike's
Well,
plan
no, there's an
says-
8 to 10-inch double-trunk deciduous. The red I can see.
Yeah, the 8 to 10 inch double trunk deciduous is also a locust. I highlighted everything in red. I think on Mike's plan, they're called deciduous trees, likely because the surveyor didn't know.
So
what
there are
they were.
5 black locust invasives going,
Yes,
and then all those other ones?
on the northern property line behind the
Are
existing
all-
one-car garage.
Okay, because,
Yeah, so there's 1, 2,
Okay.
3, 4, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to the south of the stone steps.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another 4 along that northern property line, right behind the single-car garage. There is one cherry tree.
Yeah, and one cherry.
Yeah,
It's leaning, I saw
that's
that
leaning
on the site, yeah.
garage, yeah.
So again, and then I'm going to go back to by the BVW. Again, all the existing trees that are going to be impacted, I mean, when you have been out at the site, I'm
Yeah.
looking at where you're going to plant all this stuff,
Yes.
all in the understory.
Yep,
And you just stated, I think it was 600 or some amount, or a lot of plants.
yes.
And the size is, I mean, just to
Yeah.
dig all these holes, I just am very concerned about the existing trees' health. We've
Yeah.
seen it before.
Yep.
We've actually never included mitigation as calculated underneath an understory like this, because if you left that alone and didn't mow it, it would come back in its natural state. So it's only because it's been mowed that it's gone.
Right, well, I can't speak to how it's been
Yeah.
maintained in the past because I'm not sure, but you will see that we are leaving a significant amount of space, and I think the commission requires 10 feet around the trees, and so we're leaving that space around each trees. I know it's probably hard to see because I could have perhaps highlighted the trees in green or something,
Well,
but if
with
you
my-
look at the space around each tree, we're leaving that space. And then what we're proposing to plant, so for instance, the understory with a pitch pine oak plant community, the understory that you would find naturally in that kind of plant community would be the Galosacia baccata, the Kalmia angustifolia, so the black huckleberry, the Kalmia is what's going directly around the trees. The amelanchiers are being planted away. The cedars are being planted over here at the edge of the, so that's all open area lawn currently. The amelanchiers are coming up here, and then they're also being shown up here, so they're away from the existing trees.
Okay, well, again, the shad blower, the 5 feet on, like 10 feet on center,
10 feet
and then
on
there's an existing 13-inch double trunk right in the middle of them. So I just think that if you're, again, I think it's a wonderful planting plan, and it's loaded and filled up.
Yep.
But I don't know how, you look at your aerial in the beautiful canopy there, how the health of these existing trees are gonna be. So that'll be in deliberation. The other question I have is, by moving the driveway literally 7 feet, you would save I don't know why the 14-inch oak is being cut down by that little bump out of the driveway. You know, where the pull-in, not like you go into the garage and it would be to the north. Yes.
Yeah.
So why would you cut down a 14-inch oak and a 10-inch pine? And then replace them with, what are we replacing them with? We're replacing them with an inkberry. So I just think that there's no reason to cut those down.
I'm looking for the 14-inch.
It's right underneath the circle of the inkberry.
I think it's due to grading, so there's going to have to be a retaining wall that.
Oh, that
I
was the
know-
next question for Mike.
Yeah, so my plan doesn't show, but Mike's plan clearly shows the topography here, and you can see from the photos that the driveway's placed where the driveway is simply because of topography on this site. And I think topography is what's driving the resource areas as well here with the coastal bank coming up like that.
Correct.
So the driveway is placed where it is, and then in order to get the appropriate turning radius for backing out of the garage and pulling forward, that pullout has to come out there, and then there's going to have to be a retaining wall at the edge. So there's going to be some grading that happens there. That's why that oak tree is going
Well,
to be.
it could happen there.
I'm sorry.
It could happen there.
Well, I mean, there would have to be in order to get appropriate turning radius to pull a car out of the
Because
garage.
it is, those oaks are in the coastal bank.
Correct.
Correct.
But
And you're planting, and if you move the driveway further to the south, where you're gonna put nursery stock instead of native plants, which are, what are you planting there? Tupulas along the driveway, again, all understoried with inkberry and whatever, that driveway could move over.
Well, I think
I'm just
it's
saying,
yeah.
those are substantial trees.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go to how much fill in the top of the wall, because there is no top of wall elevation.
So one thing that's, I mean, obviously the driveway location is being driven by the location of the garage and the house. So the house unfortunately can't shift further south. So the driveway's
Well,
literally
it can
leading
shift further west.
into the garage. Well, they've already shifted it back. So the house has already shifted back further to
How
the
many
west. So
feet?
it's further away from the Septic River than the existing
How many
house.
feet did it shift back?
5 feet,
Five.
Mike says.
Okay, so
I
that's de
don't-
minimis.
Yep. But the location of the driveway will still be the location of the driveway, whether the house shifted back further or not. The location of the driveway is still going to lead into the garage. And as Mike pointed out, the driver behind that is simply because they're looking for wheelchair accessibility on that level. So they're trying to get a driveway that goes up onto that level into the garage for wheelchair accessibility. They're concerned about their retirement in the future, but they also have elderly parents who could come visit.
Well, again,
them.
pushing it back to the west, you'd have less of an incline and less fill and less walls. And
I'm
you'd
going
save
to
all the
let Mike
trees.
speak to the grading on that.
I'm listening to you,
Yeah.
and I'll look into that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care about the black locust, honestly, I totally agree with you on that. But we are losing oaks in copious amounts. And to kill a beautiful oak and plant an inkberry in its place is ludicrous in my book. When you can move a house back, which we keep talking about coastal resiliency, and 5 feet is a de minimis amount to move a substantial size house back. To save, and I'm not just trying to hug one tree, but that one is huge and beautiful, and you're cutting down, like, how many is it? 139 caliper inches.
Show me the tree.
Right here, Mike. It's hidden underneath the inkberry.
All right, I don't know that it's 14.
It might be 11, it's hard to see, because it's 11. Well, 11, 14.
11, 14, you think
Still
it's
a
an
big
important tree. I think we can find a way to adjust things to address your concern.
And then the last thing was, what was the top of the coast, the top of the
Yeah.
wall and the fill that's being brought in?
Well, at the top of the wall, if you look closely on the plan, in the corners of the driveway, there's numbers 14.5, those are grades. The wall is not above the driveway, it's basically the same elevation as the driveway. So the wall's probably about elevation 14, actually, maybe, 6 inches lower than the driveway. And the grade at the base of the wall varies from 12 to 10 and a half. So it's a very low profile landscape wall, less than 4 feet. The fill,
Less than 4 feet. Okay.
yeah, it's like on average, a 2 to maybe 30-inch tall landscape
Yeah,
wall.
it's underneath the engineering requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
perfect.
Um,
But it still needs to know fill calculations in a coastal bank.
I can give you that. It's a very small amount. I didn't think it rose to the level of providing a number, but I can give that to you. I haven't calculated it. So when I look at the driveway and saving the trees, that might change, so.
It could. It
Could.
could actually be in your benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to look into that, and it might address 2 concerns.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that's all I,
All right. Courtney?
I agree with everybody. I always agree with everybody. That said, I think there really is nothing I can add to this, but I think that you've got a lot of food for thought. Probably need to go home and sharpen your pencil and come back with something. As I say, I never disagree with either Betsy or Jen
That's
or
so not
Maury.
true.
that's not true,
Yeah,
but
it's
you can
not-
say that
it's
tonight.
not
It's not true. It's not true.
So I think before we close or request a continuance, sorry, not close, but before we request a continuance, that the property owners would like to just take a minute and discuss how they use the property and the function and the driver behind the design, if that's okay.
I have one quick question, Mike. Do you have a tape measure like that? No? I'm thinking about something. No, I have a point.
We want to continue.
No,
Yeah.
I want to measure 35 feet. I want to visualize what that is. So I want to visualize what 35, 45 feet.
This room's probably
Yeah, that's
24
not-
feet.
Yeah, that's not,
Well, I think if you look at the map, the satellite image at the top of the map, you can see the distance of the lawn there. So you can kind of get a sense of what we're looking at for lawn distance and what we're proposing to plant. So that might help with the visual.
Okay, I think we're going to first have the motion
Okay,
and decide on a date.
It's about as long as this room, it's about as wide as this room.
how long do you need?
The next available would be acceptable to us. You're not, I need a minimum of 2 weeks.
And in 2 weeks, we don't have a meeting.
It's too late to get something in for next week.
Right, he knows that.
You can't, no. Next week is not, yeah, no. You guys don't even want to look at your schedule next week. It's going to have to be the 14th. And that's the next available day. The next 2 hearings you guys have are absolutely book solid.
7th isn't available? It seems like they're relatively minor.
Again, they have 5 new notices, 3 continueds, and that includes the Minot Bridge project.
14th, sounds good?
Well, we all want to be grumpy, so.
I won't be here, Mike, so you don't have to worry about me.
Definitely like that.
Unless I come in.
Me neither, I'm not gonna be
from
here.
my-
It was already
from the
threatened to come in already. Oh,
airplane,
boy.
just for you, Mike.
he'll take December 25th if we're not here.
Yeah, right.
14th.
We should not have told him
You know,
that.
if I could get you guys in, I would have gotten Tom in before on the 14th before you. But,
Wow.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue to the 14th.
Best I
and
can do.
Since Mike's going to be here and it'll be late, I'll make sure that I get here.
We'll welcome you back.
I'm sure you will.
So he goes to the end of the agenda, obviously.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion.
And I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second.
I had one more comment, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Lori.
I totally forgot my orange magic marker. By the garage where you're taking down the leaning cherry,
Yes,
and you're planting a cupola less than a foot from the property line,
yes,
and less than 3 feet from the garage,
yes.
let's not count that one as your mitigation, that can move somewhere else. Because
Sure.
that's...
We're
you're-
proposing 30 trees, so that's not a problem. We just wanted to replace the tree that we were removing with something native.
Yeah,
We
well,
could do
I think it's a
something
great
small.
idea, it's just
Yeah.
you're having a problem with the cherry tree falling on it than the
You
cupola.
want the cupola to
And the
fall.
cupola, yeah,
Right.
and it's literally on the property line.
It
Which
is.
again, mitigation on property lines is called airspace, and the neighbors can just cut it off.
Completely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Shizen?
Good evening, and thank you
I'm gonna
for
bring
giving
some.
me the time permission to speak. I think Mike and Teresa have touched on a number of points in terms of our concerns, one being safety and line of sight. We have had on a number of occasions to have to get down to the waterfront very quickly, even not for our own family or our own, but last year when there were strong winds and tides, an entire troop, I think it was actually 2 troops of Boy Scouts were trying to make it up the river and couldn't, and I finally talked the whole lot of them to haul out on the property, so the place that they had to haul out to literally was that lawn. So we've had a number of occasions when we've had to do that sort of thing over our 22 years of enjoying the property as well. And as Mike said, we've taken care of elderly parents, and the whole house is being designed so that we're on one floor. The first floor is wheelchair accessible. Not that I'm planning anytime soon of having to use that, but I know what we've gone through, and I know what it is. And a lot of discussion and planning, a long time actually, we've been working through it, discussing where to put a driveway, how to do that, and a lot of discussion about how much of the mitigation is required for that driveway. But in the end, as homeowners and property owners, it was our decision that we do need to have that driveway on a level plane. In terms of the lawn itself, it is the flattest. It's not in any sense of the word flat, but it is where the family has enjoyed time. It isn't significantly wide. We do Survivor Masterson every year with our growing Masterson family. We're over 30 people with babies all the way up to over 70 years old. So this year one of the activities was musical chairs, and it literally took up almost that entire lawn space to have that activity, enjoy those few moments with our family. So it is the one real space that we use, and it's pretty much in between the house and the water. So we will look at the plans and opportunities and some of the things you've talked about. But, you know, as a homeowner and the user, we'd like to preserve as much of that space as possible for what is really our use of the home and the property. Any questions?
Is your new address going to be Sea Pit Road now?
No, it's not. It's, I asked that question, and they said it would still be 20 Circle Road.
When there's no access to...
Well, they're
Huh.
keeping the
Yeah. Yeah, no, just curious if you're going to have a new address after all this, after 22 years.
I like my 20 Circle Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we do have
Okay.
the option.
Well, and you'll still have parking off
Right.
20 Circle Road.
Do you have the
I
access?
mean, you have,
Yeah, with the old,
Yeah. our
The
boats,
reinforced paving.
Largely, as he said, our boats sit
Yeah.
there in storage. So,
Okay, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. So, motion to continue to June 14th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. See you then. Thank you.
You done?
No, I wrote here on a 3-page.
I hope it's not delayed.
Sure you do. I don't even know if I need. All right. Roderick and Marilyn Komar, 164 Acapesket Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct and maintain a 4-foot by 121-foot pier, 4-foot by 4-foot platform, 4-foot wide access stairs, 6-foot by 15-foot fixed T section, 6-inch by 4 6-inch posts, 24 10-inch vinyl coated pilings, install a stone driveway, replace 9 white pine trees with 9 red cedar trees, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, Matt Costa, Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. Mr. and Mrs. Kumar are here with me tonight in the audience. We're here tonight before you under a notice of intent application for the installation of a new dock and some associated landscaping activities. Your resource areas for this project include land under the ocean, salt marsh, BBW, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage. The resource area has been delineated, shown on the plan. If you look at the project statistic notes on the plan, I broke out each of the area calculations and length calculations on the activities that are going on in the respective resource areas. When we were developing this project, we worked with staff, and it was discovered that there had been some historic cutting. The Kumars purchased this property a couple of years ago, and they purchased it as is condition, and weren't aware of that. When we did the review on site with staff, they had some photographs of previous application dating back several years. I think it was near 2006. That showed that there were a lot of plantings in the backyard. So, working it out with staff, we are proposing to replant that area back there. So if you look under the mitigation planting notes, we are outlining the plant species and the percentage makeups for the mitigation planting area. The project doesn't trigger any mitigation thresholds. This is a restoration, really, of previous cutting done by previous owners. And we did review the plant species and the densities with Mark, and he was happy with those. The property fronts on Green Pond. We're proposing a private residential pier. Again, under project statistics, I'm not going to go through them all. You can see all the links. They're all labeled right there for you. This is a fixed pier. There's going to be no flow. A shellfish study has been done pursuant to Falmouth Wetlands regulations. No densities were exceeded. This project has been submitted to the Harbor Master and Shellfish Constable, and both of them had no concerns with the project. The other landscape item that is being proposed is the removal of white pine trees and replacing of cedar trees. Simply because the white pine trees are getting a little unruly and large, and the Kumars still like the screening effect of the trees, but the white pines are getting a little out of hand and getting big and will actually be a problem. So they're just going to replace them basically in kind with cedar trees. That's really it in a nutshell. The project meets performance standards. We have articulated that in our narrative, and we are respectfully requesting you issue an order of conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Madam. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman. When we first went out there and we spoke with Matt, I had no problems with the dock, so the dock part of this project is fine. It was just the restoration part. He's addressed it. to the satisfaction of Mark and I, so I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Courtney?
No questions.
Maureen?
All set except what size of the cedar tree is going to be?
8 feet, 8-foot eastern red
8
cedars.
foot, okay, thank you.
That's it? Betsy?
So, I'm sorry, you probably have this information here, but is this 50% like penetrating
Say that
decking?
again?
50%?
Yes. If you look under the pier notes, we're proposing through-flow decking, and it's also on the...
For the whole pier?
deck, yeah.
I'm calling out through-flow for the areas over the salt marsh, but honestly, it'll probably be the whole pier because it's a nice product, and
Yeah.
it looks good.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I don't know if you've ever gone out and walking on it barefoot, but you don't notice anything. It's not like the old grading.
Grading,
Yeah,
it's nice.
The through-flow, it's a brand name, but the through-flow decking is a very nice product.
Okay, thanks. That was my only question.
All right. Jamie?
Perfect. I have no questions.
I don't have any questions.
All right.
It's a nice plan, nice job.
Yep.
Thank you, Betsy.
You're welcome.
So,
At the, I'd make a motion to
okay.
close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Did you have a question, Courtney?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
was going to make the motion to close,
I see.
but Maury beat me to it, so I chose the second.
All right. Any comments from the public? All right. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. So moved.
Thank you. Good night.
It was
It was a long night for you guys. Sorry.
Sometimes it works
What
to,
happens when you continue?
sometimes
Yeah.
it works to your advantage and sometimes it doesn't.
Good night.
Thank you, good night.
Thank you.
Okay, Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries, Inc. and Quistit Harbor House Land Trust, Inc., 48 and 71 Quistit Harbor Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to conduct maintenance activities to preserve the cultural and natural resources of the Knob through trail and access maintenance, erosion control, vegetation management, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening, Leslie.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Leslie Fields with the Woods Hole Group, and I'm here tonight representing the Salt Pond Area's bird sanctuaries, who are the current owners and managers of the Knob property, as well as the Quistit Harbor House Land Trust, who are owners of the property at the entrance to the Knob that you have to cross in order to get to the Knob. So Woods Hole Group was retained a while ago to update a management plan that we had prepared in 1998. That update was completed in May of 2016. And in that plan, we identified a series of activities, both short and long-term activities for conserving the cultural and natural resources there at the Knob. As most of you probably know, the Knob is open year-round to the public, and it's heavily, heavily used. It's sort of a beloved spot in town that people really enjoy going to, both locals and people from out of town. And despite the really careful stewardship that the property owners have given to this property, the resources are suffering from the heavy use and from the dynamic coastal processes that are going on there. So in order to address that, we prepared this notice of intent essentially as a comprehensive permit to address some of the long-term ongoing maintenance activities that need to be done in order to preserve the resources. So we grouped the activities into 4 main categories. There's trail maintenance, erosion control, vegetation management, and then maintenance of access, primarily for equipment, materials, to do these activities. So it's sort of construction access. So I'm going to walk you through sort of where each of these activities are planned, how we're going to do the work, and I want to emphasize that the work is really part of an adaptive management plan. So the work is proposed to take place as needed over the lifetime of the permit. We've identified a number of locations throughout the property. They're shown on the site plan where we're going to be doing the work. They're numbered 1 through 19 on that big overall site plan. I'm going to walk you through those sites here in a minute. Over time, it's possible that additional sites will be identified where work needs to be done. And in that case, the property owners are proposing to notify the Conservation Commission via letter, give you guys time to have a site visit if you want to come out and take a look at it. So So that's the way we're proposing to handle that. And I'm going to come around here so I can look at my plan. All right, so there's 19 sites. The first one I'm going to talk about are the trail maintenance sites. The things that we're proposing to do for trail maintenance are to regrade some of the paths to control stormwater, to add fill to some of the rutted paths and degraded trails to maintain or reestablish grade, to install timber water bars or maintain existing timber water bars to mitigate sheet flow. In some areas to install some water control measures along the sides of the paths to prevent sheet flow off the edge of the path down towards resource areas, to install and maintain exclusion fencing to control access in areas where we don't want pedestrians to go, and to install some trail signs. So in terms of places that we've identified right now where we need to do that trail regrading and potentially install timber bars or maintain them are sites 1 and 2, but first of all, let me just orient you to this plan. This gray area here is the area that's outside the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission because it's more than 100 feet from the top of the coastal bank. So the central part of the site is really not within your jurisdiction. The main path that you take when you go out to the end of the knob is right here. And then the Quistit Harbor path sort of follows along this side here. So the areas where we identified where we know we need to do trail maintenance by regrading paths or maintaining timber bars or installing new ones are sites 1 and 2 right here. Site 1 is that little path that goes down to the beach. There's some steps or timber water bars there. And 2 is the main trail that sort of leads up to that. So it really slopes down. It's hard packed because people are walking on all the time. There's surface water that flows this way and then down those steps to the beach. And so we want to do some regrading and potentially install some timber water bars in this area of site 2. The other site for trail maintenance is over here at site 7 on the Quistit Harbor side. It's pretty similar to site 2. It's very hard packed. It's got a pretty steep gradient, and we want to sort of regrade that a bit and potentially add some water bars. I have an inset D on your plans, shows that area of sites 1 and 2. So that's this inset right here. Here's the steps leading down to the beach. What we're talking about is potentially extending a couple of these timber bars so that they feather into the bank a little bit more, so there's not water erosion around the ends of them, and really maintaining them. So we need to make sure there's enough of a reveal on the upstream side of those bars to capture the water as it's coming down. Right now, if the soil on the upstream side of the water bar is up to the top of it, the water just comes right on down like a little waterfall. So we want to slow that down. And this is the path that's leading to that beach access path. So this is an area, again, where we want to do some regrading and potentially install some of these water bars like we've got a conceptual diagram of here. Site 11, which is right near the entrance as you come in. It's right in here. So here's the main entrance. This is an area that where we'd like to install some sort of linear feature alongside the path that will control water that right now is sort of sheeting down across this low bank right onto the beach, and there's a lot of erosion of the beach on the Quistit Harbor side. So either some sort of linear feature here, whether it's a quar or fiber roll or some sort of timber, or maybe even pitching the path so that it's pitched, into the bank instead of down. So that's site 11, and then exclusion fencing. Basically, that's going to be split rail fencing, and we want to put that at places where we want to sort of prevent the public from going. So that's sites 3, as well as sites 4, 5, and 6 along the Quistit Harbor side, as well as site 10 up here. This is the area where we can sort of, I don't know what the name of that place is, but there's a big rock, people sit on it, and there's a tree, and people look out over the harbor, and probably has a name. Okay, yeah, okay. And then we also want to install some trail signs. Not too many of them. We don't want to create sign pollution out here, but we had the idea that if we could install a few trail maps, people who aren't familiar with the area, might benefit from that because they would know that, oh, well, if I go down here a little bit further, there's an actual trail that will get me to the Quistit Harbor side instead of just cutting through the woods and making their own trail. So we tried to identify some sites, 15 and, oh gosh, I'm lost here, 14 and 15 on the Quistit Harbor side and then 16 and 17 on the main trail. So those are just little signs with a trail map. Erosion control, moving on to the next category. One of the things we noticed was that in certain areas there's been a lot of dead vegetation and trees and just woody vegetation piled on the banks and thrown on the banks. And it doesn't allow the natural vegetation to grow up and it can be sort of an area where we're going to start seeing erosion. So we wanted to try to remove some of that dead woody vegetation, not all of it, because some of it's sort of like buried in the bank, and if it would do more harm to get it out of there than leave it. But in some cases where we can remove it, we'd like to do that and take it off site. 2 sites in particular are Site 9, which is over here on the Quistit Harbor side, and Site 10. We'd also like to, in some areas, 8, 9, and 10, so 8 over here, 9 again, and 10, we'd like to install some erosion control blankets in areas where we can get them in there and then reseed those areas so those banks can become stabilized. There's 3 paths, 4, 5, and 6 on the Quistit Harbor side that are very steep, deeply incised, and they're a public safety hazard. And they're an erosion problem and they're causing sedimentation and whatnot to go into the harbor. Those 3 paths we want to close. So by doing that, we'd like to bring in maybe some of the wood that was left up here when they did the gall wasp management plan. They left some of that wood there. Take some of that, maybe some stones, bigger stones, put them in the deeply incised paths, bring in some structural fill or some sort of sandy loam, fill it up, put in erosion control blankets and seed it. So we have an inset there, C, that is on the other side. Now, this is an example of what we're talking about here at sites, Site 5 and 6. So here's an example of one of these paths. I don't know if you can see it very well, but as I said, they're deeply incised, very steep. This is sort of a schematic of what we're planning here. You can see the stones with some of the fill, and then afterwards we'd put an erosion control blanket and plant it. And then these are just cross sections of the two cross sections at Trail 5. So we're talking about maybe 20 yards of fill at each of these 3 paths. We're also talking about maintaining this fiber roll array here. So I don't know how long ago, but maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there was a fiber roll array to prevent bank erosion. We've noticed that it's exposed. As those systems become exposed to the UV lights, they tend to degrade and deteriorate. So we'd like to be able to keep that covered with sand as much as we can. So we're proposing to come in with 20 yards of fill, no more than that annually. Maybe not even annually. If we don't need it, we're not going to bring it in, but no more frequently than annually. We'd bring in 20 yards of fill and just cover the top of the fiber roll. All that material would be kept above high water, and all the work would be done by hand. So here's some cross sections of what we're talking about in terms of keeping that fiber roll filled up. And then the last thing in terms of erosion control, the area that was sort of left open when they did the gall wasp management program, we'd like to put some native seed mix in there and some straw next spring, I guess now, and see if we can get some native grasses growing in there, as opposed to some of the invasives coming up now. As far as vegetation management goes, we identified some areas on the coastal bank on the Quistit Harbor side where there's some dead or dying trees that are leaning. What happens is when the wind starts to take those and they come out, the whole root ball comes out. It causes a lot more erosion of the bank. So what we're proposing in those areas is just to flush cut those trees, leave the root ball in the bank, and hopefully we'll have less erosion that way. We identified 2 of those, Site 13 and 12 on the Quistit Harbor side. And then we're also talking about removal of invasive species by hand, pruners and loppers, maybe chainsaw. And then we're also asking for permission to use sort of selective herbicide applied by a licensed applier to some of these areas that are invasive, bittersweet, and other invasives that are out there. And then we're also asking for permission to maintain vegetation on both sides of all the trails. That's sort of something that they do now, and we'd like to legitimize it and get the permit so that we can do that and just maintain those trails so that people can pass. And then the last activity is really this maintenance of trails or maintenance of pathways for access of when we're doing, for access to use when we're doing these activities. So we've got 3 main paths. One of them is the main access path. So we're just proposing to use that as a construction access path when we're working out here at this end of the site. That would allow access out to sites 1 and 2 and anything in between where we need to do work on that trail. And then the other 2 trails are ones that would allow access to the Quistit Harbor side to do all of this work. They are in areas that were previously disturbed during the gall wasp management program. So there are areas right now where there aren't any big woody trees or anything because they've already been removed. So we had purposely identified areas, like I said, that were previously disturbed. The plan is just to let it grow back until we need to get in there and use it, and then just run a brush hog through there as wide as we need, 10 feet, to get the equipment in. We're also talking about 2 areas sort of near the junction of these paths and the main trail where we could stage some materials, equipment, and some of the soil and rock that we need to do some of the bigger path closure projects. So all the work's either going to be done by hand or with small equipment like bobcat or some sort of walk-behind type machine. The resource areas that we're working in are either upland, bank, and very small amount of coastal beach at Site 1 and 11. Other than that, there's no other work in the resource areas. So.
Jen, you got any?
I have no questions. I went out there with Woods Hole Group and Salt Pond, and we reviewed all the different areas when they were putting this together. So I'm familiar with the work that wants to be done, and I don't have any concerns.
So. All right. Let's see. Betsy.
Just by chance, I was out there with my family yesterday. They had never been there. And,
You'd never been there?
They don't live
never
here.
been there.
Okay.
I had been there.
Okay.
They live in California.
Okay, all right.
And I'd forgotten. I hadn't been there for a long time. And all the things that you're suggesting, it'll improve the site, it'll improve the resources. It's a nice plan.
Yes.
Okay.
Jamie.
I think it's a good plan. That's all I have.
Okay, Steve.
I think it's a good plan. I'll volunteer to help.
There you go. Maury.
Scare your name.
I really appreciate
my
the
name.
work you do, because the public is benefiting from this immensely on a daily basis, and it's a very expensive undertaking for these organizations to maintain them.
to do any of this, but we'll work on it.
Well, you have a volunteer.
I didn't offer money.
It's a long-term project, long-term vision.
I just have one
More time
question.
than money.
You were talking about a couple of paths that were causing erosion that you were going to close off. And my hearing isn't maybe very good sometimes, so maybe I missed this. But are you going to do any, people have a way of, they get into a habit of going down a place and you try to stop them and you fill it all up and it's all nice and they get back down and you ruin it again. Are you going to try to put something like a snow fencing or something at the top to keep them from
Split
there?
rail.
fence.
Split rail fence?
I think
Split
it's
rail
fine.
fence, and we're gonna, it's not, if the path is 4 feet wide, let's say, the split rail fence is gonna be like 8 feet wide, so that they have to sort of they would have to really go around it, into some thick vegetation before they would go down the
Yeah.
path.
I mean,
We're gonna
that's a
stabilize
concern,
those
'cause-
gullies. I mean,
Yeah,
that was a clear issue that has to be
Yeah,
addressed.
it's a public
Whatever
safety
you can
hazard.
do to
Just
stop
put a
it,
sign
I mean,
up, tick area, and.
Yeah.
And poison ivy on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, you can plant some poison
I mean,
ivy.
I have no problem with snow fencing even for a temporary thing, along with your split rail. Because people think that, you know, shortcuts are the big deal, and if they can figure out a way of getting around it easy, they will.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a problem out there, so that's a good comment.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to using, in addition to the split rail, you kind of beef it up for a while with some snow fencing.
Until it takes hold, yeah, that's a good idea.
Just in that area. I mean,
Yep.
obviously, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what actually works really well? The concrete, the wire they use to put in concrete, and it's really sharp. And
See, that's what she's talking about.
Razor wire?
No, it's just,
That's
it comes in
wire.
a 4x8 sheet, and it works really well. The kids can't really climb over it, because it wiggles just too much.
Okay.
You're sick.
Look at her face.
It gets rusty and.
Well, when they-
Surprised to hear you say this.
Well,
I move that we close
they
the
burn,
hearing and take it under
did they burn
advisement.
everything down? They
All in
make
favor?
fires out of everything. They do.
Okay, we have a motion and a.
I didn't hear that.
My
Betsy,
motion, Jamie second.
to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, thank you, Katie.
I know we'll be getting a
Question
support this
for you.
project in the mail
Are we
now.
gonna, we're gonna vote all these orders?
We're not, you have two more things.
I know that.
Yeah, we have to. because-
Okay.
Yeah.
Then in that case, I apologize, but I'm going to
Take a break.
take a 2-minute break.
Yes, ma'am.
Time to get, we'll make it official.
What? No, we are, we just taking a 2-minute break.
All right, we're reconvening. Thank you for the
But I'll look
indulgence.
at it if you really want.
So, request to amend the existing order of conditions. Town of Falmouth DPW, care of Raymond Jack, 62 John Parker Road and 52 Oxbow Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP 25-4251.
Bless you.
That allows the removal of the entire spillway associated with the dam, also located on 52 Oxbow Road.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is the only reason that this is your restoration order of conditions for the Coonamessett River project. This amendment is to allow 52 Oxbow Road to be part of the project since trust secured an easement on the property.
Yes, okay. So, is there anything to say about this?
What do we do, close the hearing or approve
close.
it?
Move to close it.
Close the hearing, take it
Yeah,
under
I'll
advisement.
move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Enforcement issues, Hugh and Marilyn McGarty, 2 Cypress Street and Little Bay Road, map 39A28-000-535, East Falmouth, Mass. For clearing and altering wetland resource area and in buffer to resource areas as defined in FWR 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00.
Yes, Madam Chairman, you heard this a few weeks ago. It was continued to allow the property owners and responsible party to meet with Mark. That has been done. They assured Mark that they would be reaching out to a specific consultant. Mark met with them on May 5th. That consultant still has not been contacted, so we don't know if they're, working towards it. So at this point, since we really haven't heard anything, we feel it's important to issue a formal enforcement order, so that's what we're here for. Just a formal enforcement order, straight up. It will be to restore all wetland and buffer resources. Thank you. 60-day time from receipt of the
60 or 30?
60 days.
60.
It's hard in 30 days to get somebody to come out, develop a plan, get it on their I would say 60 days.
Okay.
All right.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a hard time of year.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so
I'm sorry,
moved.
Mayor, I didn't hear who moved it or seconded.
Betsy
Betsy.
and Lori, I think.
Betsy and Courtney.
Courtney,
Yeah, I
I'm
think
sorry.
I second it.
Haven't you learned by now that all just interchangeable?
Yes.
Mary Moore.
Need some discipline.
Mary, Maury, Betsy,
Courtney, Kristen,
Jamie, Steve.
Okay, moving on to a voting order of conditions. 89 Walker Street,
Okay.
Hale.
Hold on, this is where I have to just, hang on, I should have done this while you guys got your break. But I was eating candy.
Do you need the
Here,
quorum?
they're all, no, we got them all right there,
Let's do
they're all in order, Susan, you name them.
Steve, Jamie, Betsy, Mary, Ross, Maury, Kristen, Kathy.
All right, how about name the ones that are here?
It was everyone.
Steve, Jamie, Betsy, Mary, Maury, Courtney.
Okay, cool.
Can I keep this?
You may keep that, you're gonna be my quorum person. Okay, hang on one second. 17, 2, excuse me. 89 Walker. This is that little teeny house on Walker. I think this is Bunker's
Yep.
project.
That doubled.
Yep.
You're it's a,
It doubled.
but I don't really have any.
I don't think we had anything.
I don't really have any notes.
So I move we accept as discussed.
Was there anything about those trees in the back?
No?
That maple or anything like that? Okay.
The 2 maples that he's gonna make sure they don't get cut down.
Yeah, so protect maples. I knew there was
Yep.
something about the trees.
For the record, I'll second the motion to,
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next, Lot 46 Westwood Drive, Nyack Association.
That is,
It's the beach.
yep, that's just the continued beach nourishment project, so
Right.
we will just look at the old order of conditions for that and incorporate the same
Yep.
So moved.
conditions.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Lot 2, Dale Drive, 34 Tupelo Road, Realty Trust.
That was the,
Is this same quorum for all these?
I have the forms here.
Yeah, let's, please
Who's on
tell
that
us.
Want me to tell you?
I know, I was
Yeah,
here. This is Sweeney, this is the Bourne Farm property.
this is the
Mike
vernal
McGrath.
pool.
Nice Neck was the same group,
Good.
I think it's all the same.
and so is the next one.
Okay.
So this is, and they did drop me off a revised plan showing the
Oh, I
extension
remember
of that.
this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is the,
Driveway.
that goes
is the
within
driveway.
the A of the vernal pool, but it's just to get the access to that back lot.
Right.
And the only special condition was to extend that post and rail fence beyond 10 feet beyond the split tree. What?
10 feet further in.
10 feet further in than they had it.
10 feet beyond, okay, yeah, okay. And they did submit a revised plan already for that.
Great.
I'll move to accept as discussed.
Do you want me to make findings about the property being donated to Salt Pond?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
okay.
that's all in, it's
Yeah,
a quite a
Yeah,
long
because
history.
that's all points to.
It's a big important history.
It's all
Yes, it is.
surrounded.
All right,
Yep.
all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
I did.
Steve did. Yeah, reference the history.
Okay, that's
did.
what I figured.
Yeah. Okay, next is 249 Shorewood Drive, Goldschneider. Imagine we all remember this one.
We
I was
do.
not here.
Null in the quorum.
You missed a good one.
Which one's the form?
Was that Jack? Landis College?
This is Jack's,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
only
It's not
thing,
Jack.
this is that coffer dam project.
Right.
Jen,
Sandbed.
Which
You're not on
which is the form?
I'm on it.
Okay,
Oh,
so the
you're on.
quorum's gonna
I'm on
be, quorum's is
Courtney, Betsy,
Steve,
Mary.
Betsy,
I mean,
Mary,
Steve.
Courtney.
Move to
Steve, Betsy,
accept.
Mary, Courtney.
Jamie and I are,
Jamie, and-
Oh,
okay.
Betsy.
yeah, me.
You remember Betsy.
You remember that, Lee?
Who could forget
Mary,
Betsy?
Courtney. Jamie, why aren't you on the quorum for
Jamie and I
this?
were both gone.
He was on vacation.
The first hearing, we were both on vacation.
That's,
Oh, that's right.
Remember?
no, the second hearing you were both on vacation.
Whatever.
Well,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Vacation.
We
I
I was
missed
here
one.
both
10
times.
days for me.
Move to accept.
Come on, guys.
Bada bing.
Okay,
Hang
so,
on, so there was the pool, the replanting, the
The
wall, and then the boat ramp. So are you guys comfortable with the way they,
You suggested that Jack should be on site, and he
For-
agreed, and I
Right.
agree, because he said that it could, he's done these before, and so they have to have a monitor on site, and
that's the only way I'd be comfortable. If
Yeah.
they're not gonna have the cofferdam, they need to have some sort of environmental monitor on
Yeah.
site. And that can be Jack, I don't mind.
no, I mean, he said he would.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, during in-water work.
Let's say an environmental monitor that's acceptable to the conservation administrator, and we already said it could be Jack.
Yeah.
I also would put something in there that when they're prepared to do this work, that they notify staff. So that we
Oh,
have the
absolutely.
opportunity to
Right.
cruise by there.
Yes.
And I think that adds a little extra oomph to remind Jack he has to be there. the
Well, they'd
whole
have
time.
they'd have to tell staff before they started the work.
Right, but I
But
mean,
we
this,
should know
this-
exactly when this part of the work is going to be done.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's not just the general notification.
Right.
It's-
No, it's notify staff during the in-water work.
Exactly,
Yeah, I don't really care when they're doing the pool.
right.
You know, as long as they give me their 10-day start work and,
Yeah, and they
you know,
have,
I don't have a neighbor yelling,
number
I'm
of
fine.
times.
But when
Right.
they're working in the water,
right,
that's where
we want to know.
I really don't have a comfort level with this, but we'll go with it.
No, and I agree with you. I don't
have a
either
comfort
particularly,
level
but
with this at all, but I'm hoping these guys can prove me wrong, I really am.
Well, let's
And
hope-
I'll be
Let's hope we learn
ecstatic.
something
Yeah,
that's good, that makes us happy.
I
with
will
this
be
project.
ecstatic when they prove me wrong.
and I think it's important for us to know about it because I think that underlines to Jack, you know, that we could show up out there and if he isn't there, you know, the world comes down. You know, the sky falls.
Yep. All right, so,
Move to Oh, no, you moved.
Presumptively, I believe.
Well, I guess you can again.
Okay, I'd move to accept.
And I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. 5 North Chop Lane, McDevitt.
Same form as the last
Oh, 4 of us?
one. Yep.
What was this one?
Beach nourishment.
Oh, I'm not on that one, that's right, because I was
Why aren't
away.
No, Maura, you are on it.
Okay.
You are.
I thought I was.
You are on that one.
Jamie, Betsy, Maury, Courtney.
Oh, this,
This was the 8,002,557 cubic yards of sand.
the group.
Going out 70
The group,
feet.
no, not the association.
No.
940 cubic
No,
yards.
come on.
I was going to say, 8 million.
Yeah.
8 million cubic yards.
Somewhat short of
of sand.
1,000.
Is that,
Plus or
we're
minus.
talking about
Building
out
the
of-
sandbar
out
in
of
Martha's Vineyard.
No, this is
Oh,
the
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
The one where they're gonna feather it into the abutting groin that they don't own, but it's gonna be 8 feet tall. And it goes out 70 feet, and it's gonna be, how many feet out into, 70 feet into the water. It's not even,
Yeah.
I don't know how we would do this, because we've
940
never let anybody put
Cubic
beach
yards.
nourishment
In that,
below mean high
Yeah.
that
water.
seems like an awful lot.
It's an
It
awful.
is.
940 in that space. I'm not opposed to having beach nourishment here, they have no beach.
Right.
Yes.
I'm not opposed to having beach nourishment, but 940, 8 feet of sand is not going
70
to last
feet
there
out,
for
it goes
very-
out 70
Well, it's
feet.
going to go out a lot further than that when the first set of waves come
I
in.
know, and my concern is the abutters, their groin, which they call that a groin, just so you know.
Yeah.
That little rubble pile. On the picture, it looks like this gorgeous,
Well,
huge,
the butter isn't going to be upset because it's going to be sand on his beach.
It's
or
going
her
to make it
beach.
to Minot.
I'm not opposed to beach nourishment, I am opposed to this much.
well, I'm opposed, we don't know the cause and, yes, we do know the cause and effect. Bourne's Pond is a perfect example of cause and effect. That the town put that sand on that beach, we never got the records to find out what it did, and the shellfishermen were all upset because it
Well,
was.
we know what it did.
Well, we know what it did, but we never got documentation
But
of
you
what
know,
it did.
you weren't here for that hearing. They don't seem to know what it did. They
Right.
seemed amazed that,
Well, this is a lot, and when you go on that beach, it's loaded with shells from shellfish, and you read the natural heritage, it is eelgrass, potential eelgrass area. So if all this just goes out in one storm, like the one up, the canal, they lost, 100,000 cubic yards in one storm?
That was
And-
sandwich.
Sandwich,
Sandwich.
yeah, wherever it was, yeah, and
I'd say
That's
yes,
not our problem,
yes,
though.
they could do it, but.
to mean
but
low water,
limit the
to mean
amount.
high
To
water.
me, yeah.
Limit the amount to like 100 cubic yards.
And I
100
don't,
cubic yards is like, we're talking
we didn't even
6
go.
trucks, right?
Yeah,
it's
5 or 6 trucks.
A tractor trailer, the big huge ones, hold roughly 20 yards.
Yeah.
So 5 of those.
So
It's a
let's
lot.
say
That's a lot.
that's what they can do.
That's really a lot.
Well, I don't, and you're all right with them going going out 70 feet?
No.
Oh, they above,
Just be above mean high water.
right, and then see what happens. And report to us
That's a
what
dump
happens.
truck load.
Yeah, and
Okay.
report what happens.
What do you want me to write? Above mean high water or 100 cubic yards of
Oh.
sand?
Mean high water.
Mean high water and only 100
No,
cubic
no
yards.
more.
And a maximum.
And
No
maximum.
more than 100 cubic yards.
Right, and is this supposed to be, in their mind, supposed to be a one-time deal, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you need monitoring before they do it?
Right. Pictures.
Right.
Yeah, we want to see a
Pictures
beach
and-
profile.
And beach profile, before they do it?
Yes.
After they do it? And a year after they do it?
So before, right after, and a year after.
Right, after they put the sand on, what's it look like?
And
They gave you before.
Well, yeah, they gave us before, but how do we
No,
know
it
what's gonna
just says
happen when they?
typical section, Jen,
Well,
it's not.
how do we know what's gonna happen? Whatever they gave us, it's not necessarily gonna be the same.
I don't think
No,
it's-
we want to
they
see
put
the
it
beach
on.
profile before they start.
Right.
I think it just says typical, I don't know
No,
if it's,
of
I'm looking,
Woods Hole Group, they did it.
okay.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
we have a
matter whether they
storage.
did it. It might be completely different.
From 1846 already.
You know what?
We have historic from 1846 to 2016.
No, that's not a beach profile. Beach profile's this way.
Oh, they're back here then.
Yeah. Yeah, but you don't know what
Got
it's
it.
like. Those profiles change.
Yeah.
I've done beach profiles.
Yeah, of
course
So
they
have I.
do. No,
Page 9 of 10 has
I've
it.
done beach profiles on beaches every month for 13 months. And they get
Okay.
bigger.
And again, this is
big.
another one where
John?
they should notify staff, not just 10 days before they do it, but the day they do it. So staff has the,
Yeah, and
can
take
take
pictures.
a ride out there, watch them
Yep.
do it.
And we will let them put the granite steps in,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
Should have told them why they were here.
Anything else?
Nope.
Well,
What?
Maura made it clear
agree
that
with
she wasn't happy with what they were proposing.
I mean, is there anything else we want to add before? I'll make a motion then.
Make a motion.
I move that we approve this order as discussed and conditioned.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
Sometimes they only hear what they want to hear.
93 Falmouth Heights Road, Rodenheiser. This is-
Rodenheiser is Mike and his
I move
Silly
that we
floats,
accept.
one thing after another.
I move that we accept again.
Yes.
Tell Mike, this is it. He's had enough amendments on this one.
Right.
We accept again the Fifth Amendment to the float size on these floats.
You want
So we're-
the,
we're-
Yes,
We're
please.
letting Mike take the fifth, right?
is the
Yeah.
fourth one, the fourth continuance, the one that counts?
Yeah, that-
Yes.
Yep.
Wait a minute, here's another one.
All right, let me do this one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's just this one. So Courtney, Maury, Mary, Betsy, Jamie, Steve, yeah, that's fine.
all of us.
All right. This
I'm
was-
just, you know what my notes are gonna say? Floats again.
We're all getting punchy.
That's from years ago, that's
Michelle West?
Remember who Michelle?
Did you not know Michelle?
Cinco de Mayo Day?
You must have known Michelle.
Well,
Don't worry about that.
that's a loss
Just
for
this-
both of you.
Yeah.
She was.
You didn't know each other.
Great.
She was a good girl.
We have a motion and a second.
All those in favor
Wait a
say,
minute. I'm sorry, I'm feeling it every time.
that's okay, people are bombarding.
Courtney, I think, moved it. I think
That's
Steve
right.
seconded it.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Courtney and Steve.
Steve.
Okay, I got it.
All those in favor
Well,
say aye.
Lisa.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Okay, the last one.
She used to sit down.
I don't know if I'm on this one.
Long hair.
Long blonde hair. Yeah, you do.
No, she doesn't.
She was a queen of stormwater.
Yes, right, she was the
She was the
stormwater
stormwater expert.
expert.
When did you start working?
12 years ago. No, I don't know.
You must have run into Michelle. Anyway,
In your last lifetime, you started working with us?
here we go. Okay, 186
Meadow Neck.
Meadow Neck
Meadow
Road,
Neck.
Scarduzio.
Is the dock that they want to do the pilings. It's the little walkway out on the salt marsh in the ACEC
Oh, it's
and
an
the
amendment.
spanning of the amendment because they can't
Wow.
structurally
Can't do
build
18,
the
they can
dock
do 12 or
with
something.
the little posts, so
Right.
they need to put the bigger pilings in.
Right.
Right.
I make a motion that we accept as discussed.
Second.
All those in
The
favor
rest
say
of their
aye.
project is like
Aye.
approved and they're already doing it.
Yes. Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Maury, do not leave me.
We are
I'm not
adjourned.
that. I saw your car.